Alright, it looks like we are now live. So, let's just go ahead and let's go right into it, shall we? Hello, Nancy. Hello, Blair. It looks like people are already starting to come in, so perfect. Let's just go ahead and let's go right into it. Today, we're going to be doing our usual discussion stream, and we're mainly going to be focusing on Kokomi this time around. I know that there's a lot of things going on in the community right now, but if I'm being honest, most of them are fairly negative. So much to the point that it's actually getting tiring just thinking about them. I'll just address them really quickly at the very beginning. Yes, the anniversary rewards are absolute garbage. Yes, Kokomi is not the best character in the game at the moment. Yes, there's a lot of problems going on with leaked content, and miHoYo is not giving us a lot of responses. The entire community as it is right now is kind of a bit of chaos. Frankly, I don't think it's going to be too productive to dwell too much into it. Enough people are raging about it. At this point in time, I kind of just want to talk a little bit about Kokomi. I have actually been playing Kokomi quite a bit in a different account, and I have been enjoying her quite a lot. While it is true that she is definitely a bit under the ceiling of a lot of the characters we have seen so far, that does not mean that Kokomi herself is bad. In fact, she actually has quite a lot of things that make her very attractive as a possible character to roll for. With that being said though, I do think that she is most certainly a very niche character. There's a lot of synergies that you have to have already if you want to take advantage of Kokomi, and that is probably going to be one of her biggest weaknesses. As far as clearing the content of the game, she does her job fine. There really is very few things that actually affect the way that she actually plays once you get her in game, and a lot of her kit actually feels more fluid than you would imagine. It's just not... She's just not built the way that you would normally build other characters. But because of that, she actually has a pretty high floor, meaning that you'll be able to, even with very, very bad artifacts, get Kokomi to deal, honestly, respectable damage, especially for a free-to-play player. With that being said, if you are someone who has spent a lot of money trying to get 5-star characters, you already have a lot of 5-star weaponry, you have artifacts that are insane when it comes to crit rate, Kokomi is not going to be a character that you're going to take advantage of. The way that I see Kokomi is a very, very good character for a free-to-play player. A lot of the Inazuma characters have actually gone towards that mark. They have a very high floor in exchange of having a lower ceiling than other characters. We have pretty much gone away from a lot of the character design aspects of characters like Hu Tao and Ganyu, who are aimed to be incredibly powerful when maximum artifacts are taken into account, when maximum efficiency is considered. That appears to no longer be the design philosophy for a lot of characters we have gotten. They have been significantly more balanced, and I don't mean so in the actual game balance aspect, I mean so in the investment requirement. You don't need to invest as much into a lot of the Inazuma characters, which actually make them really, really good for free-to-play and low spenders like myself. I often find that pretty much every single character that we have gotten since Inazuma, heck, even including Kazuha, they have actually been relatively decent to build with a lot of synergies that you would normally not expect from 4-star characters. I do think that this is probably a good thing. I would like to see some of the ceiling raised up just a tad bit, because there are some problems that do come up, especially with the way that miHoYo is deciding things like Abyss now. So hopefully that's something that's going to get addressed. I'm gonna be real, it probably won't, but at the very least, I still want to give my opinions on that. Thank you, Nazi. Damn it, Kokomi, I know, right? So let's go right into it, and we're going to be talking about Kokomi for quite a bit. So, first things first. Is damage everything in Genshin? No. Damage is not everything in Genshin. There are very specific things that make damage characters kind of unplayable in a lot of scenarios. So damage is not everything. Support is probably where a good majority of actual utility comes from. If we just take into account the damage per screenshot, the maximum damage that a single character can do, every single character in this game can do over 1 million damage. That is not difficult. We have very, very insane supports like Bennett, Sucrose, Diona, and we have insane buffs that you can deal against certain enemies. There are enemies who are weak against certain attacks, and there are multiple buffs that you can get from things like Spiral Abyss, as well as food, in order to pretty much get your damage to a point where it's going to be ridiculously high. Even Kokomi can get to that point. In fact, every single character in the game that's melee and can be infused can hit over 1 million damage with the help of Bennett. That is not impressive or practical for that matter. So, if a character can deal maximum amount of damage, that's not so much the point that you should focus on. The bigger point should be, can you get to that cap within a reasonable amount of time? Can you get to that cap with a reasonable amount of investment? There's a lot of ways of having characters with Vaporize and Melt just one-shot most enemies. The thing is, how much investment do you have to put into those characters? A lot of those characters usually require Constellation 6s in the case of characters like Hu Tao, heck even Ganyu for that matter, and a lot of really powerful supports that are properly built. One of the things that a lot of people really don't take into account when they're looking at a lot of the new characters that we have gotten is that investment threshold. If you've already passed that investment threshold, then by all means, you can probably skip every single Inazuma character and you won't even notice it. If I'm being real, if you're at that point, you could probably grab Amber and still do like 500,000 damage. The way that Genshin works, as I explained in my Damage Explained, it is a exponential formula. The most difficult part about that exponential formula is getting past the limits of artifacts. Once you're past that limit, pretty much the game becomes completely easy. And frankly, almost irrelevant. 1 million Barba? Oh, that's easy. That is incredibly easy. I could probably accomplish that with my shitty artifacts. The way that you do it is essentially the way that damage works in Genshin. If you stack a character that has a multiplicative reaction, in this case Vaporize or Melt, alongside Resistance Shred, like the one that Sucrose can provide, you can actually multiply your damage to insane amounts. Plunge attacks in Genshin are also incredibly weird, and we have a lot of characters that can also enable that while buffing the team, such as Zhongli or Abedo. So if you pair, if you say, let's pair Barbara with someone like Bennett, and we'll use Zhongli for example, that's already a very, very powerful attack bonus that you're getting. You're getting a resistance shred, and you're also getting a plunge attack damage bonus. So if you pair that with very strong artifacts alongside a powerful weapon, you can deal a significant amount of damage, especially if what you're trying to do is just get a big number and not actually care about DPS. At that point, you could probably just put everything into crit and just roll for that 5% chance. When you take a look at max damage, that's usually what you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of people who have very, very little amount of crits, and they're going to be attacking a single character, refreshing over and over and over again in order to one-shot enemies. That is actually something very common that a lot of speedrunners do, with Ganyu in particular, where they run her with 0 crit, pure crit damage, and the only time they crit is when they activate her passive, basically. And they try to pretty much just roll for that perfect run, which I find, I mean, if you're enjoying that, up to you. I don't personally find it fun to redo the exact same thing, hoping for the 5% chance that it'll go different. I would much rather prefer that if I do an activity 10 times, I'm able to beat that activity 9 times out of 10, than, even if it takes me longer, than beating it once every 10 tries. It's just the way that I personally like it. I just like consistency a lot more. But I got a bit sidetracked. Kokomi. Back to Kokomi. Frankly, I don't see that many problems with Kokomi. She does certainly have a couple issues. I think one of the biggest flaws that she has lies on her burst. I think her burst doesn't really feel that impactful, and that is something that's really gonna bring her down quite a bit, because the burst is a very, very important part of the kit. Whenever you activate the burst, all of your abilities start scaling off of HP. And the HP scaling by itself is actually quite massive. If it wasn't for her passive, she would probably be the best character in the game. I'm not even kidding. The inability to crit is bringing her down by quite a significant margin. It's not the end of the world, because we do have a lot of ways to take advantage of the Hydro element. The Hydro element by itself is probably one of the best elements from a support perspective. And Kokomi fitting really well into that does have a lot of benefits. Her application of Hydro with her jellyfish is one of the strongest applications of Hydro that we have in the game. This is going to be a bit complex, and it's going to be going very heavily into mechanics, but essentially, whenever you apply an elemental status to a character, every single ability in the game has a duration for that elemental ability, and every single one of them is different. Kokomi's is one of the few Hydro applicators that has a very strong application for that, meaning that even if you go with reactions, if you do multiple reactions, it is possible to trigger multiple times one reaction with multiple abilities. Because of this, she's actually really proficient in not only freeze compositions, but also vaporize enabling. And that is something that's honestly quite massive. Especially early on, when it's very difficult to trigger a lot of these. The only character that we have had so far that's capable of doing these in a proficient manner has been Sheng-Cho. The other character that has historically been able to do this has been Tartaglia, but Tartaglia is incredibly difficult to build. That is always his biggest flaw. Just how expensive he is in terms of the requirements that he needs. He needs a significant amount of crit in order to do decent damage. A lot of the energy can be problematic with his burst. His attack power can be weird. His scaling is also kind of disjointed. He does a lot of damage, but he is probably the most difficult character to build. I have had him since the first rerun. We're about to get to the third rerun, and I still can't use him because I don't have the artifacts for it. It's just that difficult to build. Kokomi doesn't have this issue. My friend that got Kokomi, she went to the Heart of the Depth artifact set for farming for her Ayaka, and within a single day, she already had perfect artifacts for Kokomi. Both Heart of the Depth and Maiden's Beloved. It took her probably like 10 runs, and she already had a fully built Kokomi. And after doing the math on how powerful that Kokomi is going to be once she actually fully levels it up, she's actually going to be doing more damage than her Ayaka. And that is something that a lot of people do have to take in mind. In the lower levels of play, heck, even just lower spending, the damage that Kokomi can provide is not insignificant. When we actually take a look at the numbers in-game, DPS for Kokomi is decent. It's okay. It's not high, that's for sure. There's a lot of characters that can do better. But she's not meant to be a solo character. She's meant to be played with a team. Her job is to enable other characters, not to be the main damage source herself. And that is not something that we can dismiss. It is very strong. But it does require a couple of synergies. The most free-to-play synergy that I can see is definitely with the assistance of Xiangling. Xiangling is just an incredibly flexible character that pretty much works with everything. So it's no surprise that she works really well with Kokomi. Let me read the chat for a bit. Another thing that exists for the damage per screenshot thing is the 750% plunging modifier. That seems about right. That is something that a lot of people do for showcases. Yoimiya as well. She's an incredible character. I'm honestly kind of regretting not getting her after trying so hard to get Pyro DPSs to work and just not getting the artifacts for it. I'm trying to build my Yanfei super hard because I love that character, but god is she hard to build. Anywho, back on Kokomi. Once we actually finished doing the math for just how much damage Kokomi was going to end up doing, she was going to end up doing more damage than Hayaka. And her Hayaka is already incredibly powerful. She recently got the Blizzard Destroyer full set, as well as leveled up her abilities to the highest that she can get them. I think right now they're like 6, 6, 8. And her normal attack damage is just not enough. Even when at maximum efficiency, her Hayaka is only hitting about 4,000 every crit. And while she attacks really fast, Kokomi attacks at about the same rate. After we did a bit of the math, Kokomi's actually doing 20% more damage than her Ayaka, which is surprising to me because her Ayaka is really, really strong. I think that is the way that you should look at Kokomi when it comes to her DPS, is that she works very similar to what you would consider a Crescent Pike carry. Her DPS does not come from big numbers stacking together, it comes from little numbers that can be applied really quickly. Her normal attack chain is very fast, the amount of triggers that her jellyfish applies is also very fast, and the damage when on her burst is not that insignificant. And one of the bigger problems that Kokomi does have does tend to be her on-field time, as well as how little uptime her burst has. It can be fairly difficult to keep that burst up for a significant amount of time. It does have a very long cooldown, and it does have a fairly high energy cost. So that is definitely something that does affect Kokomi quite a bit. But while a lot of people might call that a weakness, I kind of see that more as a strength. That means that there is a 8-second period of time that Kokomi is not active, that other characters can do their stuff. You're not wasting DPS, as it were. You're actually incentivized to use more supportive characters in order to keep up the higher DPS output. So, in a lot of cases, when we take a whole team into account, it is fairly possible for a lot of teams that have Kokomi to out-DPS hyper-carry teams. It honestly does come down a lot to investment. I personally feel like investing super heavily into a single character is probably not the way to go in a game like Genshin. The game changes way too quickly for you to be able to destroy all content with a single character. What I feel is always going to be more valuable is to have a wide array of supportive characters that are capable of dealing with different situations. And that's one of the reasons why I see Sucrose as such a high value character. My god, that character is insane. So is Bennett, but Bennett is insane for multiple reasons. There's a lot of benefits from building supports rather than min-maxing a single character. If you really do want to go to the min-max route, it is possible, and it is something that you can do. It will take you a very, very, very long time. I was doing math for a video that I was planning on doing. I'm not even sure if I'm going to do it now, considering all the hate that has been going on right now. I kind of just don't want to push myself into that. But essentially, for a free-to-play player to get a single one of the artifacts that you see on whale showcases, I did the average math of how much time it's going to take you to get a single one of those artifacts with really high crit rate / crit damage. In average, as a free-to-play player, doing artifacts every single day, it will take you 6 months to get a single artifact that has the amount of crit rate and crit damage that you are seeing in some of the showcases that you will see on YouTube. That is how much time it takes for a single artifact. Taking into account that in a lot of cases you need the correct set, as well as, well, all of the artifacts, not only one, it'll take a very, very, very long time to get to that point where you can start doing exponential increase. So, if you're free to play or low spender, I would not recommend that you try that. It will be way too frustrating. It will take way too much time. What I would recommend instead is that you try to focus more on supportive damage. Cheap builds that can work really, really well, and that can do not exponential damage, but additive damage. At the end of the day, the objective for Genshin is not to kill everything in a second, it's to kill everything within the amount of time given. And that is significantly more reasonable if you just build around a team rather than around a single character. The only problem with an MMO is that you don't want to farm a VV for a proper set. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't do that for the longest time. For the longest time, I only had my Sucrose with the Mappa Mare and a 4-star artifact with Elemental Mastery, as well as just like flat defense on everything. My Sucrose was absolutely horrible. The thing about Venereer is that Venereer is probably one of the most impactful artifact sets that we have in the game. So even a very, very bad Venereer is still going to be a very significant damage increase. An MMO is very expensive. That is certainly true. One of the characters that a lot of people are clamoring to be one of the best characters right now, Kazuha, he's incredibly expensive. He's very, very difficult to build. He's probably one of the easier ones when it comes to whale level builds, I guess you could say. Mainly because of the existence of the Iron Sting. But even with that, it's just so difficult. You need so many crit rolls in order to make it proper. You need to get like insanely perfect stats. It's just so difficult to build that character. The way that I can compare him is probably to like to Tartaglia. Though those two characters, they just rely way too much on multiple stats. It's very, very difficult to build them properly. That's actually one of the reasons why I tell a lot of people to avoid trying to focus on only getting characters like that, because they just won't be able to build them. It will take way too long for them to do that. Kazuha, he's probably the least egregious of the bunch. He's probably the most free-to-play friendly. I do think he's a bit overrated at the moment. A lot of his hype is probably coming mostly from favorable Abyss scenarios right now. He does have a lot of value, though. He does definitely have a lot of value. I think another character that's very overhyped is also Venti, but it's whatever. He's Venti, so it makes sense. Yeah, I can see with that. It's very difficult when it comes to a lot of the characters that are coming out, because the meta in Genshin changes way too much. In 1 second you have Pyro is the best element. In this next second you have Pyro is completely useless. Why would you ever use this? In the next update, when the Abyss changes yet again, you now have the DPS characters that do multiple hits to do their damage are now completely useless. Now it's all about the burst characters. And then the next Abyss, that switches up again. A lot of the meta in Genshin is decided by Abyss, and Abyss changes way too drastically for that to be healthy and sustainable. If you want me to be real with you, a lot of the inline problems with Genshin do not come from the design of the game. When I actually sat back and I look at the design of the enemies in Genshin, at the design of the characters, at the design of the systems, they're really well crafted. The systems are honestly impressive. They have a lot of really attractive things. They have a lot of interesting scenarios that can happen. They have a lot of interactivity with the world. They have a lot of power behind them. They feel impactful. When you add Abyss into the question, everything goes off the window. The damage resistances that enemies have, the amount of health pools they have, the limited timer that gets added for arbitrarily no reason, it changes the way that you play the game. And it changes it for the worst. When you go into Abyss, the best way to play Abyss is to not play. To kill everything before they have a chance to act. because if they have a chance to act, that's wasting your time. And if you're wasting the time, you're not going to get the 3-star clear. That is the underlying mentality that Abyss has created, and that is the reason why you see a lot of people who are invested into that so worried about damage, because it's not that they don't want to play the game. It's not that they don't want to do certain stuff that they don't want to use certain characters. It's that the design of Abyss is not conducive to that. If we take Abyss 11.3 at the moment, in the first stage, you have to fight against a Cryo Citizen Mage, you have to fight against an Electro Citizen Mage, and you have to fight against a Fatui agent. On their own, yes, the enemies can be a bit annoying, but they're dealable with. You can stun the Fatui agent out of his dash moves. You can trigger a lot of reactions from the elemental mages, and you can deal with them, no problem. The design brings for interesting fights that allow you to move around, and they create interesting scenarios. When you put all three of them together, it's just too much. You have to deal with the Fatui's blades, you have to deal with him going invisible, the targeting system not working properly. Both of the Citizen Mages are spawning a constant amount of the little butterflies. You're now fighting 9 enemies at once, each of which is at a minimum doing 1,000 damage. 6 of those have homing projectiles. Another one of those has a one-shot mechanic. Another one has a shield that can go well over 1,000,000 damage. It's too much. It's just too much for a player to handle. So what a lot of people have taken to do that is to just not deal with it, to not play the game as it stands. If we think about the way that a lot of people are clearing Abyss, the reason why Anemo characters are so popular is because they can stun a wide array of enemies within that short window of time that you have. Another thing that I have to mention is all of these enemies, they become immune to CC 3 seconds after the game starts. So if in those 3 seconds you don't CC all 3 of those enemies, you're going to have to deal with that mechanic. That's one of the reasons why damage has become so relevant, because people don't want to deal with it. And it's understandable, it's painful, it's horrible, it's bad design. And the design is not from the game, it's from Abyss. The way Abyss has centered so much into it. I plan on making a video about this. I don't want to go too deep into it because I have barely talked about Kokomi, and I do want to talk about Kokomi. Oh, Jean is amazing. Yeah, Jean is incredible. She's probably one of the better characters that I have seen. I think she's definitely one of the most valuable characters in the standard banner, the other one being Mona. Yeah, Abyss is pretty much just sale marketing. I can definitely see it if they purposely design some of the characters to create drama, because drama always brings people's attentions. One thing that you can take into account is that the recent anniversary debacle that put them on TV news. Actual news sites are covering the debacle. That is so much free publicity, and people are not going to be hearing the negative portion of that. What people are hearing is Genshin Impact anniversary has gone horribly wrong. So that immediately goes to us humans as, oh, Genshin Impact is having an anniversary. Oh yeah, Genshin Impact, that game that came out a year ago. I wonder how it's doing. Huh. Okay, so it's doing pretty poorly with the anniversary. Let's go ahead and let's check out what all of that is about. Then they go ahead and they see the trailers for Kokomi. They go ahead and they see the trailers for Raiden, and suddenly, what should have been a PR disaster now became a marketing pitch. Just because of the way that we ourselves tend to take a look into accounts. Our attention span is too short, especially for things that are negative. More often, that is one of the reasons why people say that all publicity is good publicity, because we tend to forget the negative. That's just the way that we're wired. Even you're confused on how to build your gross area? So when it comes to Rosaria, there are 2 options. And this is one of the reasons why I think Rosaria is such a good character for players that are just starting out. Because in the early game, she can be a very, very powerful DPS character. She can probably be one of your main characters for DPS. And the good thing about that is that when you change into a late game, where damage becomes exponential, where you have to go into that exponential section, you can switch her to a support department. And 15% crit rate, there's not many characters. Excuse me. There's not many characters that can get to that point easily. Heck, even Rosaria can't get to that point. 50% crit rate is massive. When you actually take a look into the numbers, crit rate is the most impactful stat for how much damage you're going to get an increase from. And the reason why a lot of people don't usually talk too much about it is because it's something that you don't see. When you increase crit damage, you see the number go up. When you increase crit rate, you don't. But the number is consistently higher more often, which tends to go for more consistent DPS, a lot less having to reset for crits. It's just a much more impactful damage increase more often than not. There are limits and there is a balance that you have to keep in mind. I cover that in Damage Explained if you want to take a look at that. But that is also one of the things that you make a good point. Characters are becoming a bit more complex, and that does have to go with the way the damage engine works, because you don't want to overload a single character with all of the damage multipliers. If you do that, we end up with characters like Kazuha and Sucrose, who the people who can take advantage of those are going to break the game with them. Take a look at how many people have already broken the game with Sucrose and Bennett. Just those two characters alone already provide such a massive damage increase that if you have them properly built, they trivialize gameplay. The same thing goes with Kazuha and Bennett. Those are the three most exponential characters in the game at the moment. But this also causes a problem where a majority of the people don't really know how to build their characters, and that makes them feel a lot more useless. Well, a lot of people that try to, let's say for example that you get Kokomi and you see Cryo or Hydro damage dealer with the Catalyst. So you go ahead and you build like full crit rate and crit damage, full attack power, normal traditional build, and you're doing like 700 damage. Obviously you're gonna say she's trash. When in reality, had you just built a bit differently, you would have gotten a bit more consistent damage with a lot less fuss, while still retaining her abilities as a powerful healer. Man, I'm really sidetracking. I'm gonna leave a lot of these to Q&A. I do want to finish talking about Kokomi. But yeah, back on track. Kokomi. While I have talked about a lot of things, and a lot of things that have made Kokomi seem less favorable, generally the sentiment of a damage-focused community because of the Abyss changes that keep on happening, and the sentiments of investment versus efficiency. Efficiency, of course, you're always going to be faster, you're always going to be better, but just how much investment do you have to get into that point? For Kokomi, that investment is very low, and that is the thing that makes her really good. She's going to be a really good character for low investment players. With that being said, she does have flaws, and they are pretty big. The most notable flaw doesn't have to do with the crit rate, doesn't have to do with anything of that. It has to do with the duration of her burst. Her burst is pretty much the only time where she's going to be doing damage, so you have to make sure that you put her in a team that has enough energy generation to keep that up. The good thing about Kokomi is that one of her best weapons actually covers this in a very efficient way, the Prototype Amber. Prototype Amber has always been a weapon that has been played around with multiple characters and has always been strong. The ability to generate the exact same amount of energy as Ventiverse for the whole team with no fuzz is incredibly powerful. And while a lot of people have experimented, myself included, with trying to make builds for these types of characters to make them more, to take advantage of this powerful weapon, there were just no characters that could take advantage of it. A majority of them were too problematic. The only two that ever saw use for this have been Sucrose, who has really high energy generation by herself, a very impactful access to the Venereer set, and can provide a lot of different benefits through Elemental Mastery, so she doesn't rely as much on her weapon. And Barbara, who has horrible energy regen and an 80 burst, meaning that while the energy generation was there sometimes, it wasn't that impactful. Her burst is also the realistic only way that you're going to be doing a majority of your healing with Barbara, since it is the most easily accessible that doesn't cause a DPS loss. Because of this, these two weapons never really took off. The only one that actually used it properly was Barbara, and that was already a very, very niche character for very, very niche situations, since most people would rather just have the Thrilling Tales of the Dragon Slayer. Kind of the same deal with Sucrose. Kokomi kind of fixes a lot of those issues. One of the main reasons is that she actually has access to the Tenacity of the Millilith set, and she can keep that up for a very, very long time thanks to the assistance of her jellyfish. Their rotations are a bit awkward to work with, but not impossible, and they actually work incredibly well in freeze compositions. Freeze compositions are probably going to end up being one of the best compositions for Kokomi, especially if you have Ayaka. Heck, even the new character that's being introduced in Alloy that some people already have access to, that can also end up being a really good fit for Kokomi. Freeze compositions are probably going to be some of her best scenarios, but that's not the only thing that she's good at. I think Kokomi fits into a category that doesn't really get talked too much about. I don't even think you could even call it a category, but if we take a look into a design category, she would fit into this. And just to keep a consistent name, I'm going to be naming this the Paladin. Paladin characters are characters who are meant to take the brunt of the damage, and who are meant to be on the field, but not dealing a majority of the damage. They are meant to be there mainly as a survival tool, and as a way of enabling the damage of other characters. Think of characters like Jean, think of characters like Noelle, even physical DPS Chi-Chi to some degree. Most of these characters deal a majority of the damage not with their kit, but with the supports they can enable. Remaining alive on the battlefield, using different debuffs on enemies, or just doing a significant amount of damage in the case of Noelle. This is how those characters go out and you play around with them. And they're incredibly effective at what they do. Yes, they are slower than one-shot compositions, but for the most part, you're never going to have to worry about a lot of the complications that come from having to deal with a lot of things from Abyss or stuff similar to that. Kokomi fits into this category. Her main gimmick, if you will, is that she is a very powerful healer that works really well at enabling hydro compositions, whether it be freeze or vaporize, and at the same time, she's practically immortal whenever that burst goes up. Trying to kill a Kokomi when that burst is up is very, very difficult to do. The healing is too much, both from basic attacks and from her jellyfish itself, and if you pair that with characters like Pydo, oh boy, yeah, you have a very, very immortal character. That's probably one of the things that Kokomi is going to end up, whether it be as a paladin for a team, where she's going to be actively enabling other characters while giving a little bit of energy recharge with things like the Prototype Amber, or a more supportive variant, which is likely what we're going to be seeing a lot in freeze compositions, where she's using the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayer alongside the Millilith set in order to buff a certain character while still applying Hydro for that character. I think if you're going to go for Kokomi, you're going to want one of two things. Either a very powerful Bido or a very powerful Ayaka. And if it keeps on going like that, characters that keep on doing that will work really well. If you have a very powerful Shang Ling and you do not have a Shang Cho, Barbara might actually be in consideration. Or not Barbara. Kokomi might actually be in consideration as well. The one thing that separates Barbara and Kokomi is the energy generation. Well, other than that, they're very, very similar. But Kokomi actually has energy generation, and a lot of her cryo application is very strong and very flexible. So she tends to be better than Barbara in that regard. A lot more mobile as well. I guess not mobile, more reliable. That's probably the better way of putting it. Oh yeah, co-op. Forgot about co-op. She would be pretty good on that, wouldn't she? Since she would be able to apply a lot of Hydro for pretty much multiple characters. Her application of Hydro is insane. I don't think we have a character that can compare other than Xingqiu. And unlike Xingqiu, her application just happens. If only you could put a level 10 friendship characters playable by AI and help us on the battlefield, that would actually be really cool. Why she's better to an Ayaka team and not Ganyu? Well, I mean, if you want to put Ganyu and Ayaka... Oh wow, that would actually be a really powerful combo, wouldn't it? Huh. Ayaka, Ganyu, Kokomi? Oh Jesus, that is way too powerful. Huh. Yeah. Huh. I turned into a villager for some reason. That is very strong. Oh my god. I had not even considered that. Well, that puts a lot of numbers on my head. Yeah, that might actually be a bit too good. One of the things about Kokomi herself is that her Hydro application, once it's actually applied, it's very difficult for it to fall off. Whereas with characters like Xingqiu, it can fall off. It can be a bit of a struggle sometimes to keep the frozen enemy frozen for the amount of time that you want. Kokomi doesn't have that issue. Every single pulse of her jellyfish applies Hydro, and reapplies Hydro at the same time, increasing the duration of freeze almost permanently. It is very, very strong. The only time that your character's the enemy is gonna unfreeze is if you stop the cryo DPS, and if you have both Ayaka and Ganyu, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Ayaka and Ganyu can fuel both of their energies. If you're still having troubles with energy, you can just give Prototype Amber to Kokomi, at which point that's 15 energy to every single one of them. That's a rank 3. I'm pretty sure that rank 5 gives how much energy? 21? There's no way it's that high, is it? Prototype Amber. Give me one sec. The one that I have is rank 3, so it's giving me 15 at the moment. Prototype Amber, rank 5. Huh. 18 energy. That's not bad. That is not bad at all. Yeah, you would not have any energy issues with this. This would be very, very consistent. At which point you could probably just grab a character that has a very strong pull, whether it be Kazuha or Venti. I would probably prefer Kazuha in that regard. That would be very strong. That is not a bad build. One of the biggest problems that the Morgana composition has at the moment is that it has no healing, practically. The only time that it has healing is when you have Diona in that team, and Diona is not a character that's suitable for Morgana, other than the energy generation. You would much rather have a more offensive character, whether it be Rosaria, Alloy, or Ganyu, but the healing necessity is one of the things that makes that very difficult to accomplish. And while you would have less of an impact with Kokomi, the difference between Kokomi and Mona are not that extremely high. It would be like a 20% damage loss in exchange for more consistency on both of those fronts, and replacing Kokomi with Mona would allow a more impactful cryo character while still retaining the safety. So even though the DPS of a single one would be lower, since you're adding a more damaging one, it would be significantly higher, while still remaining with that consistency factor. That is actually a very, very strong build. I'm definitely gonna have to take a look into it. I would probably use Kazuha for this one. Sucrose maybe, but the thing about Sucrose is that one of their main drives is that EM buff, whether it be for Electrocharge or whether it be for Vaporize or Melt. That's like the main driving focus of what makes Sucrose so powerful. Without that, Kazuha is ever so slightly better. just because his CC is ever so slightly stronger. That would not be a bad build. That would still be very, very expensive though. We'll come back to that later. You'll need all 3 limited 5 stars. Yeah, that's not accomplishable for a lot of people. Then again, even without Ganyu, you could probably supplement that with just Alloy, and that would still be fairly powerful. Give Alloy something like the what you call it? Oh god, the one that refreshes the cooldown. Since Alloy we get for free, you would only need Ayaka or Ganyu and Kokomi. That's reasonable. That's not super horrendous. It would take a while, but it would be possible. Things to consider for the future. Definitely things to consider. That is not a weak composition. Her and Zhongli on the same team. Oh my god. So much tankiness. Okay, if you really want tankiness, if you want absolute tankiness with Kokomi, you go Xingqiu in addition to Baido. Both of these characters, when they're at their maximum level, they can provide almost 40% damage reduction. The staggered decrease from both Xingqiu and Kokomi combined makes an incredibly powerful character that will never flinch at anything, that can heal herself pretty much instantly. You are never gonna die while those 3 bursts are active. If you die, I will find that impressive, just because of how much damage reduction it is. One of the things that's important to note in Genshin is that damage reduction, for some ungodly reason, is not multiplicative, it has no diminishing returns, and it is in fact additive. This means that if you have 40% from Xingqiu and you have 40% from Baido, you don't have like a weird 50-something reduction, you have just 80. And because of the way that it scales, the more damage reduction that you have past 50, the more impactful it becomes. Same thing with defense. With defense reduction. So, those 3 characters combined can pretty much become practically immortal. If you want true immortality, you would need a C6 Jean, I believe. I believe that's the only other character with damage reduction in the game. I don't even know if that one stacks. That one might be different. That one might actually be multiplicative. I don't know. I don't have a C6 Jean. Sackbow, that's the one. But yeah. Since we're pretty much arriving at about the end of the things that I want to say to Kokomi, we'll just go through a brief overview. I don't think she's a bad character. I honestly think that she has a lot of value, mainly because of how flexible she can be. The Tenacity of the Millilith is an amazing set for her. The ability to switch her weaponry that's also very, very affordable in both the Prototype Amber and the Threats of the Dragon Slayer is very, very powerful. And Hydra application with a strong healer, that has always been good. One of the only reasons why Barbara is not being played is mainly because she sabotages your team by freezing them, and there's a lot of cryo enemies in the game since Dragon Spine came out. It used to be fine before that. Now, there's just way too much cryo. There's too much cryo in this game. She's strong. She's strong, just not in the traditional sense. She's not strong in the I will kill everything. She's strong in the I will never die aspect. And as content keeps on becoming more difficult, damage windows on bosses keep on going down, and sustain keeps on becoming more and more relevant, I do think that Kokomi is going to end up being a pretty good character that's going to fit into a niche for a lot of people. Healing is probably going to become more important as the game keeps on going forward, especially now that shields are probably going to be getting a pretty big nerf when it comes to new characters, since those leaks have more or less been confirmed at this point. Healing might become a lot more important. I don't know how important just yet, but if you have Kokomi, I think you'll do fine. I believe it's possible to have 100% damage reduction with Jean. It might still be additive. I don't know. I don't think it would be multiplicative because a lot of the way that Genshin does its math, it tries to do as simple a mathematical construct as possible. That's one of the reasons why pretty much everything is centered the way that it is. Most of the damage in Genshin is you add everything that you can add together, and then you just have one long multiplication. There are no exponentials, there are no... Well, I mean, it is technically an exponential, but... we're not discussing mathematical exactness here. It is just a simple multiplication with most of the modifiers bundled together into the thing that they fit the most into. There are no complicated things like logarithmic functions or square roots, which usually give more balanced systems. That's one of the reasons why damage can scale so high. It's because we're using a multiplicative system, exponential. But yeah, a lot of weirdness when it comes to Kokomi. I do think that a lot of people are underestimating how powerful she actually is in game. Kind of the same deal with Yoimiya. I feel like as the game progresses, a lot more people are going to see the value of these characters. It happened already with Albedo. It's going to happen with Yoimiya. It's going to happen with Kokomi. A lot of people were disappointed with Raiden at the beginning, and right now, I'm pretty sure that a majority of the population can agree that Raiden has been an absolutely insane character so far. Again, all these characters do have weaknesses, and there are quality of life changes more than anything that I would like for miHoYo to add, that I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. But I would like to see it sometime in the future. I would like for miHoYo to change the way that archer basics work. That has been a problem since the beginning of the game, and it has been a problem that I have been ranting about since the beginning of the game. It has yet to be fixed. I hope they do that at some point. That will make Yoimiya so much better. I hope that we see some changes to the Electro reaction at some point or another. I don't think we're going to see that until the release of Dendro. I'm hoping for Dendro. I'm not hoping too much, though. But hopefully it'll be something interesting that could actually bring some benefits. I think now that writing is out, if you want my opinion, one of the best changes that you could probably do for the Electro element as a whole would probably be to give the reaction something like a defense reduction, an innate defense reduction. If we take a look at defense reduction right now, 3 out of the 5 characters that do that are Electro characters, and the Electro Archon herself, Raiden, has a Constellation 2, and that directly influences the defense of the enemy. So having that on the elemental residence would be a significant damage increase that would be beneficial, that would help in all forms, whether it be support or DPS, that wouldn't break the game, and it would make sense in lore. So that's probably what I would go for. Maybe increase the damage of Superconduct a little bit, increase the tick rate, not the tick itself of Electrocharge, just a small amount, and probably reduce the knockback of Overloaded and instead increase the stagger. Those would probably be the changes that I would make. Would they happen? Probably not. miHoYo is very lazy when it comes to quality of life. For the last one, Kokomi. Frankly, I don't even know what I would change with Kokomi. I think I would probably give her burst like 2 more seconds. And I would like to see the water walk passive actually be useful. As it stands right now, it's very difficult to use properly in any scenario. I don't know, maybe making it like a passive ability or something. Making it so that if the jellyfish is active, that also triggers it. It's already just such a fluff ability that I don't even know why they're restricting it so much. Shields are getting nerfed. This is a rumor, not so rumor, but essentially in the new patch, we have pretty much confirmation that we're going to be getting enemies that bypass shields entirely. So Not so much a shield nerf, more as a shield counter that you're going to be seeing in every single Abyss floor. I can guarantee you that much. Let's see what do we have here. 4-piece XL, 12 energy. Oh yeah, XL also gives that. Prototype Amber. Yeah, that's a lot of energy. Yeah, that's a lot of energy. Who needs ball, am I right? But with that out of the way for Kokomi, I just don't see why a lot of people are hating on her. I guess it has to do with just how much more supportive she is than other characters. Support characters tend to get a lot of hate on the release date. I don't think there has been a single support character that people were excited for. Even Kazuha, which is at the moment being seen as one of the best ones, when he was released, there was a lot of hate for him. Albedo, yeah, he pretty much saw the exact same thing as Kokomi. And then we had the release of Zhongli. That one had a different vibe though. So I probably wouldn't fit that one into that category. He is a support now just because the buffs overbuffed him, if I'm being completely honest. I would still rather use him as a paladin if you're early on into the game. If you have higher damage characters, the investment might be worth it to go into those characters instead. The good thing about Zhongli right now is both his DPS potential and his support potential are incredibly high. So he is never a useless character. He's probably the most flexible character at the moment. Second would be Bennett, probably. Third would likely be Sucrose. Fourth, I don't know, that one's more up in the air. Rip, God, Harbinger of Dawn. That's the one. Albedo. He's probably still gonna see a lot of play. They interact with different teams. Albedo interacts really well with geo compositions or compositions that just need more power. Especially with the EM added bonus. He works really well with those. And while it's not viable right now, at some point or another, we are going to get a viable shatter composition. And I will guarantee you right now that Albedo will be busted when that happens. He will deal a lot of damage. A lot of damage. But until we get a viable shadow composition, that's unlikely to happen soon. Kokomi is just a Barbara 2.0. If you have Zhongli's shield, then yeah, probably. I don't think I would pull for Kokomi if you have Zhongli's shield. They work differently though, but they accomplish the same goal. Having both of them doesn't really give you that much of a benefit. The only real benefit is you could have a team with Zhongli, and then you could have a team with Kokomi. They more or less accomplish the same thing. It's just different ways of doing that. Stagger resistance and a lot of immortality from Zhongli. He gives that to another character, and then stagger resistance and a lot of immortality. Kokomi is the one that has that. So one is beneficial for hyper carries, the other one is beneficial for sub DPSs. That's kind of like the difference. And depending on which style you prefer or have access to, that's kind of how you should look at it. If you have a very strong Bido, if you have a very strong visual, Kokomi is likely a good choice. Zhongli can also accomplish that role though. That's kind of one of the differences. Zhongli is just a jack of all trades. He works well with everything. Just because his bonuses are so... I don't want to say generic. It's more like all-encompassing. They affect more parts of the game than the bonuses that Kokomi provides. One just gives flat damage, the other one gives more utility. Healing can be done with food, and Abyss never wants you to heal, just to stagger and kill quickly, too quickly to let enemies hit you. Yeah, that's kind of one of my issues with Abyss at the moment, if I'm being honest. I don't like that that's how Abyss has become. We have all of these interesting systems, all of these cool interactions, all of these cool animations that a lot of the enemies have that you never see, because if you want to clear Abyss, you have to kill them before they can move. I am not a fan of that. Healing is also a bit underwhelming at the moment. I can agree with that one. While it can be used for a lot of beneficial a lot of beneficial aspects, a lot of it is usually just wasted because you can only heal so much. You don't have like an extra shield bubble or anything of the sort, and there's always a limit to it. There's no real benefit for overhealing. While that doesn't really happen with shields. The stronger the shield, the better. It's kind of one of the reasons why healing is so underwhelming at the moment. Maybe at some point in the future we might get something. One thing that I would like to see would be an artifact set that converts overhealing into a shield. I think that would be very strong. Maybe a bit too strong. Yeah, maybe a bit too strong. We could probably have to put a limit on that one. But I feel like that would be interesting. And that would definitely make a lot of healing characters a lot more viable than what they are right now. Paladin characters such as Chi-Chi and probably not Jean. Jean would probably still stick with Venereer set. But I would like to see that. I feel it would be really interesting to have a artifact set that turns overheals into a shield. It would make Barvor a lot more viable. It would make Chi-Chi a lot more interesting. It would make characters like Bennett. Bennett would still be Bennett, but it would give him a lot more utility in that regard. Characters like Sayu would also gain that. Sayu would probably still use Venereer. A lot of our healers would get a benefit from it, but it wouldn't be all-encompassing. Nor do I think it would be too broken, especially if you have it scale with a character's max HP, rather the active character's max HP, rather than the character who did it. I think all the negativity is also spilling from the anniversary, combined with the build-up of current and previous issues going unaddressed from Mihoyo. Yeah, I can definitely see that. A lot of the complaints that I can see are not really targeted at Kokomi, they're more targeted at Abyss. Because Kokomi in the open world, she's amazing. In boss fights, she's also crazy good. The main problem is Abyss. Abyss is a problem that has been gone unaddressed way too long. And that is something that you could have seen from the very, very first iteration. It is something that I even said that this Abyss will ruin the game unless it changes. And we can kind of see a lot of the repercussions from that. I do think that they have to focus more on Abyss. It is just not fun. And it's not something of, oh, just change the floor, get rid of the corrosion mechanic, get rid of the annoying things, change it for something else. That's not the problem. The problem with Abyss is that it doesn't challenge the player to play the game. It challenges the player to play a numbers game. Can you kill the enemy before they have a chance to act? Or can they kill you before you have a chance to act? It's the best way that I can put it. I play Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot. So the way that Abyss right now plays is a mirror match between two stun decks. It's who can stun the other one first. Will Abyss stun you to death first, or will you stun Abyss first? And if anybody has seen a stun matchup, it is the most boring thing in the world, and that has kind of shifted to Abyss as well. It is just frustrating, unfun, and it is definitely driving a lot of the late game player base out of the game. The game is so much more fun when you're not playing Abyss. But you still want to have things like the challenge that it can bring. It's just you need to tone down the frustration. I would like to. I do want to do a let's remake Abyss video at some point or another. The current negativity on the community is kind of killing me a little bit, if I'm being honest. It is putting me very down to make a lot of the videos that I want to make. Mainly because when I'm working on it, when I'm working on the scripts, I just look at it and it's just like, will this even matter? Alas, that's only the way that I feel right now. I'm gonna get over it eventually. I've been working on like 3 different videos for the longest time, and then I've just had that same feeling for quite a while. I'm just gonna have to say screw it and probably release them, even if they're not up to my standards. I'll still try to make them good, don't get me wrong. It's just, I probably need to stop worrying too much about that stuff and actually just work on it, just release stuff. Alas, that got too personal. There's still a couple things we have to do. Let me go ahead and take Donor Duplicate, just play Noah with someone else using Millith or whatever it's called, GG. That's also a really good option, yeah. Noah is insane. Noah is crazy. Rework 4-piece Archaic Petra, I would like to see that as well. Definitely, it would definitely be a good change. I would prefer it if it happened when you trigger Crystallize, rather than when you pick a crystal. I feel like that would be a lot better. Maybe give it the Millith treatment where it can also happen when you're outside of combat, although that would probably only affect Albedo at the moment. It would also free it up for Geo characters in the future. I would definitely like to see that change. I don't even think it would be that difficult to implement. They already have the coding for Millith. It would just be a matter of transferring that coding over to Archaic Petra. Abyss is the only thing that makes fun for you. Yeah, that's kind of the problem at the moment, isn't it? Abyss is the only endgame content that we have. We have events, but those go away really quickly, so there really isn't anything to latch onto, other than Abyss. And the way that Abyss is designed right now is just frustrating. It's not entertaining. It doesn't challenge your skill. It challenges how quickly you can kill an enemy. It challenges how quickly you can CC them. Do you have the character that can CC them? Do you have the 1 in 10,000 artifact roll that allows you to crit the enemy before they have a chance to act? I don't like that out of Abyss. I don't even think that the Abyss design for the challenge is difficult. A lot of the problems just stem with a timer. I think the timer has to go. If it wasn't for the timer, Abyss is already challenging enough as it is. And it would probably even be fun. It would it would enable a lot of unconventional strategies to actually work into it. It would shift the balance from kill everything in 5 seconds to survive the challenge and defeat the enemy, which sounds more entertaining. It would actually be a fight between an enemy rather than a massacre. Our current event is Commission of Primo Gems. Yeah. It is definitely one of those things where when the events are not up, Genshin feels really stale. And that was a problem that we could already see coming in from Dragonspine. I very clearly remember saying that all these events are really nice, but the second they start drying out, the game is going to feel very stale. And alas, that has come true. We need a second endgame activity. Something akin to a raid or something. I don't know. We just need something that isn't Abyss. Ideally, I would like to have like a boss rush, where you have to fight multiple bosses and you just have to see how long you can survive. No timer involved, just how far you can get into it. I think that would be a lot more entertaining. Whether that's gonna happen, I don't know. There's just so many things when it comes to the business model of MiHoYo, the production time that it takes to make things, a lot of the investment that has to come from both players, community, game developers, as well as management. It's so hard to implement change, it's kind of disappointing. Alas, we will see what happens. We will see what happens. Anywho, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and let's move over to the next part of the stream. Let me just go ahead and set this up. We're actually going to be doing a account review. Somebody asked me to review their account, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be taking a look into the account for this particular character, this particular player, things that they could do to improve their account, things that they should probably try to aim for, as well as just kind of take a look at how they have been able to do things, as well as the strategies that they have used in order to get to the point where they are right now. I had a lot of fun doing this in the last stream, so we're going to see how it goes for this one. I don't know if I'm going to make this a common thing, but if you do want your account to be subject for a review of this sort, just go ahead and send me a Discord, and we'll take a look into that. But let me go ahead and switch. I'm pretty sure that the character The main character they have been using is already screaming at you. Here she is. So, we're going to be taking a look at this particular account, and I'm going to be real. This account is really, really good. For what pretty much amounts to a very low spending player, they have been able to acquire quite a lot of very high value characters, and they've been able to take advantage of them really, really efficiently. One of the main things we see right here is Hu Tao. Hu Tao, widely known as one of the better characters in the game. One of the things that you also notice is that they're using a very, very different team from what you normally see in a lot of videos. And the main reason for that is this Hu Tao is using the White Tassel. They don't have access to Homa. And this does change the build order a little bit. While this might look really weird on a first interaction, this is actually a really well-crafted team. If you take a look into this, Zhongli is pretty much the main defensive tool for Hu Tao players, and has been the case for quite a long time. And this synergizes really well with this particular build. This build does not focus on Vaporize, it instead focuses on pure pyro damage. And it does so trying to maximize the active damage on the field rather than doing something else. This is a really, really powerful boss fighting composition that works really well for players that don't have full access to Hu Tao. It's impressive. And until you get something better, this is a really good way of going about it. Zhongli can provide resistance shred, Jean can provide resistance shred, you have Raiden Shogun for the downtime of Hu Tao, you have full access to burst spam with this version of Hu Tao. It's a pretty strong team. So, while this is really good, there are also multiple things that this player can do. And one of the things is going for the super meta Hu Tao build, which they actually have access to. They just have not invested super heavily into. If we take a look into a lot of the characters they have gotten a lot of very high value 5-star characters that they can take advantage of. They essentially went for Zhongli, probably one of the best choices for anyone starting out Genshin. If you have the chance of getting a Zhongli, I would recommend that you try to go for it. This character has very much become the definition of what a effective character design looks like. I'm not gonna say good character design because he is a bit too busted, but he is the definition of what effectiveness looks like. We have another really high power character with Hu Tao, who we all pretty much know how powerful she is. High value when it comes to Raiden Shogun, both in burst as well as energy generation and a lot of utility. Then we have another really high value support in the form of a Beidou. Again, off-field DPS, a lot of utility that makes him really beneficial for a lot of teams. In conjunction with his Zhongli, he now has a very, very strong support core. Two characters that work incredibly well with each other that can provide a massive benefit when paired together. One of these characters can use Tenacity the Millith, the other one can use Archaic Petra. And while Archaic Petra might not often be seen as that valuable of an option, it can come up. And it probably will come up in a lot of cases. Especially if the main character is an infusion character that has their element of a particular type, in this case, Hu Tao. Frankly, this account is kind of cracked. They have a lot of really powerful characters they can take full advantage of. They also have Tartaglia, which is albeit expensive, fairly powerful character that can bring a lot of potential to a lot of teams. Really, really, really impactful selection of 5-star characters. That's for sure. They definitely went for some of the most valuable characters they could possibly get. And when it comes to ball, they even got incredibly lucky. They actually have the C2, which is massive. Frankly, there is so much that you can do with this account to increase the power to a maximum amount that it's really, really impressive. We'll go over through some of the highlights real quick. This has been the team that they have been using so far, and this makes sense. This is a really good team for just general exploration and not having to worry too much about anything. You have a good amount of healing, you have a good amount of energy recharge, a really good protection, a lot of powerful and impactful debuffs. For exploration, this is amazing. If we want to go more for Abyss, however, which is why I chose this particular location, they also have a lot of options. They have a lot of options when it comes to that. So if we take a look into party compositions, love the name. There are quite a good amount of teams that they can make with their current character pool. They have access to what's essentially a national team composition with Tartaglia, Raiden Shogun, Bennett, and Xiangling. The Xiangling is not fully leveled. That is something that they definitely have to worry about, but it makes sense. It takes a long time to level up characters, so you can be lazy here once in a while. And they also have another really powerful composition in probably the most meta of meta builds. They got Xingqiu, which it looks like they're leveling up right now in order to enable something like this. They have Hu Tao, the Zhongli, and the Albedo all pretty much already at full capacity. Once this team is fully built, they have access to one of the strongest compositions in game. This is very, very strong. Let's see, if revolve flare equals C2. The C2 for ball is really impactful. It reduces the enemy defense by 60%. It doesn't reduce it, it ignores 60% of the defense. It's basically the same thing mathematically, but the difference here is that this only works for ball, where reduction would work for the entire team. So that's the main difference. 60% reduction is equivalent to about 22% multiplicative damage increase, which in a lot of cases will multiply your damage a lot more than you would expect. The difference in numbers from C0 to C2 is quite impactful. C3 is also another power spike. Less impactful in terms of multiplicative bonuses, but because it also modifies a lot of the previous bonuses, it ends up increasing quite a lot as well. Overall, a C3 ball in comparison to a C0, the difference will probably be somewhere between 60 to 80%. It can be pretty massive. So a lot of ball players do want to have that C2. In fact, I'm probably going to start setting up for the ball rerun whenever that happens, so that I can get the C3. If you don't have her, that's not the end of the world, if I'm being honest. She's incredibly good. A lot better than you would expect, but she's definitely not at the same must-have as Zhongli is at the moment. She is a character that works really well in a lot of compositions, but it's not a complete necessity. She is incredibly high value though, as this team right here definitely shows. This is probably one of the better teams they have available right now, and this is probably one of the teams that I would use for Abyss runs. They have a very strong Tartaglia, they have a very strong Raiden Shogun. Bennett still needs a bit of work, but it is getting there, and Xiangling needs a lot of work, but they're getting there. It's not easy to enable a lot of these teams. It takes a very, very long time in both artifacts and weaponry. And weaponry is probably the part where they're going to have to focus a lot of their efforts going forward. I think their character selection is already very, very strong, and this is probably a very safe point to stop rolling for characters. You can pretty much specialize at this point. One of the characters that that actually benefits a lot for this one in particular is that they don't only have access to this, because one of the things that you can notice right now is they rely a lot on Vaporize. So if Vaporize ever becomes something that you can't enable quickly, whether it be because one of the bosses has a permanent element that does not allow for that, or whether they have resistance to pyro or something of the sort, they can actually switch a lot of their teams really, really quickly to a lot more high value characters. With the Raiden Shogun, they actually have a very, very strong Anemo core as well, with both access to Xingqiu and Baido. The Sucrose, by the way, is at C6, which makes her probably one of the better characters in the game when it comes to just support potential in general. This is another really powerful taster composition, as people have started calling them. I'm still going to call them Electrocharge. That does really well in not only AoE, but also single target DPS. Electrocharge, triggered consistently, does add up to a lot. And both the damage of Baido and Xingqiu can become very, very impactful, especially when you have someone like Sucrose constantly boosting that damage. In addition to the Raiden Shogun herself, who, because she's at C2, can act as a hyper carry if you put enough investment into her. And this composition is also incredibly strong, and it's not the only one that they have access to. They pretty much have full access to a complete Geo core that could work incredibly well as well. Whether it be something like this that aims to just boost as much damage as possible from Ningguang and switch damage to Tartaglia, to something like the exact same thing with the Raiden Shogun, they have a lot of really, really good options when it comes to this. Geo is not the only element they also have. They also have the beginnings of a very, very strong physical damage composition. Although this one is probably the weakest out of the bunch, it is also fairly playable. Essentially what you would do would be something along these lines, where you more or less try to go for just maximum survivability with Zhongli and use Crescent Pike in order to maximize that amount of damage, spamming, pretty much having Zhongli just as a singular damage dealer while you try to spam both Raiden Shogun and Xinyan. Xinyan here is actually the main damage dealer, believe it or not, mostly because of the burst spam. This is probably the weakest out of the compositions though. It could actually become very, very strong if they end up getting a couple of different characters. They actually have pretty much all of the most beneficial supports for a Eula. If they end up getting Eula, they actually have a very, very strong physical team right here. So that is probably one of the characters that I would keep an eye out for. Eula would definitely benefit this player quite a lot. One of the biggest issues with that, though, is they don't really have many weapons that work with Eula. They have a lot of prototypes, though, so they can use free-to-play weapons in order to take advantage of that. A lot of very flexible teams. Even just a double and Nemo composition with, let's say, Bennett, Sucrose. Probably too many healers. We can go Rosaria. Even something like this looks incredibly deadly. Like, the amount of teams that they can make is just crazy. They have so much potential. So many insane teams that can be accomplished. Heck, even one of my favorite teams they also have with, would you use Zhongli or would you use Noel? You'd probably use Zhongli. Even just like pure Electro with a little bit of resistance shred. This is just so much flexibility. They have a lot of really good characters they can take advantage of. I do think that their strongest compositions are probably the Tartaglia Shogun with Bennett and Shangling, as well as this one right here with basically Hu Tao Turbo. Basically Hu Tao Turbo. There is so many good stuff here. When it comes to characters, perfect selection, perfect resource management. I am incredibly impressed. Now, the part where this stops being less interesting does come down to the weapon parts. Weapons have been a very big struggle for this player. If we take a look at the weapons that they do have access to, they do have a couple 4-5-star weapons they have been able to take advantage of, but not that well. They are missing a lot of characters that synergize well with these weapons. The exception here is probably the Ningguang. This is a very powerful weapon that they have access to. And because they have access to this weapon as well as Raiden, it might be a good idea to consider Yae in the future. Depending on how strong she ends up being, you actually already have a very, very powerful electro-based team, just like pure electro, Yai might actually be something to consider in the future. So just keep that one in mind. You definitely have enough. You definitely have enough investment to properly build that character. They also have the Emerald's Bow, which means that Ganyu is also an option to consider in the future. They are, as of right now, lacking in the cryo DPS department. Rosaria is their best cryo damage dealer at the moment, which, while very strong, is definitely not something that he can enable because of the lack of the next part that he's struggling with, spears. A majority of this player's characters are spear users, and he doesn't have any good spears. He has pretty much have to make do with things like the Crescent Pike and the Prototype Star Glitter. This is definitely the point of investment where you're probably going to need a lot more work. Thankfully for you, thankfully for this player, the catch has been released, and that will, at a bare minimum, mitigate that damage. When it comes to Hu Tao as a whole, White Tassel is probably the best option that you have available right now. The difference between White Tassel and the Black Cliff Pole is honestly insignificant. It's so much to the point where just the investment for the Black Cliff Pole is already probably not worth it. Even for the other spear characters, the main issue that a lot of these spear characters have is not crit damage, it's actually crit rate. A lot of these characters are struggling with crit rate, which is why he has not been able to build them in a very efficient manner. If this player were to ever get something like the J-tipped winged spear, did I say that right? I don't care. I'm gonna call it that. He would probably have an incredible array of characters that would all be very, very strong, but he doesn't. So that's probably something to keep in mind. Spears are definitely what you're going to be looking for. There are rumors there's going to be a Homa reader in the future. If you have the chance to get the Homa, I would definitely try to go for it. White Tassel, you're almost at the limit of how much damage you can get with White Tassel. He is actually getting to a point where his Hu Tao cannot become stronger. So a weapon upgrade is starting to become necessary. Primordial Jade Winged Spear. God damn it, I'm never gonna say that right. It's whatever. So when it comes to weaponry, definitely try to focus on the spears. The bow aspect is already really, really beneficial. You have, well, pretty much every single good bow that has ever been created. So on that one, you don't have to worry too much about it. When it comes to books, again, pretty much every single good book that has been invented. Full access to it. Greatswords are also a point of contention. There's not that many good ones that you can take advantage of, and a lot of the ones that he has are, well, just to be real, kind of subpar. And that is not so much a problem for the player. Greatswords in general are just subpar. There's not that many good ones. The best ones are either incredibly expensive, only work for certain characters like Eula, or are just too gimmicky to work properly. So if we ever get a powerful greatsword, getting it would probably not be that impactful for this particular player. It would only really matter for Baido, which he doesn't usually use that much at the moment. So definitely a big focus on spears. Spears is definitely the place where you're going to be needing stuff. What I would recommend that you do is that you try to get the catch as soon as possible. The catch will significantly boost a lot of your teams, and it will help you work really well with that. As it stands right now, it's fairly obvious that you just recently got the Favonius Lance. Leveling it up right now is probably not the way to go. Since you have Raiden now, you're pretty much never going to need the Favonius Lance at this point. Just stick with the Star Glitter until you can get something better. Another thing that you can consider is the shop weaponry when it comes to the Black Cliff Pole. While you might be incentivized to try to get this one, it actually wouldn't do that much for a lot of your characters. The only one where it would matter would be for Shang Ling, and if I'm being completely honest with you, Shangling would rather you have the catch. So while it might be tempting... Where's Shangling? There she is. So while it might be tempting to try to grab that in order to boost your damage as much as possible, plain and simple, you just don't have the resources to enable it. The crit rate on the things you can enable with Shangling is not enough to the point where you can safely say that the Black Cliff pull is a worthwhile investment. Definitely try to go for the catch. That's your best option at the moment. If it's possible, the Homa rerun might be something you're looking at. Other than that, when it comes to characters that you might take a benefit from, definitely Ganyu. Your Cryo Core is very, very strong, even without a lot of the incredibly powerful Anemo characters. You have a very, very strong Sucrose over here with C6, and you have a lot of really powerful Cryo enablers. So Ganyu, maybe even the new 5-star Spear that we can expect sometime in the future, that we know is going to be a Cryo. There's definitely a strong point there that you can go for, if you want to go for Cryo compositions. I don't think you have a need for it. I would much rather see a bit of investment into weapons, whether it be trying to get Homa or whether it be trying to get the Primordial Jade Winged Spear. I said it right for once, I think. Oh yeah, the Fish Claimer. We're gonna be getting that soon. I don't even know if he would use it. I think what's the best thing that he has for Biter right now? Yeah, it is the Rain Slasher, isn't it? The only other viable option would be either Sacrificial or Fabonius, and that would require a Emblem of Sword Fates, which I don't believe he has any remaining. Yeah, this one's difficult. This Bito is incredibly powerful, as you can see. Almost C6. Once it hits C6, yeesh. This Bito is going to destroy. Just can't enable it. That's the sad reality. Not enough attack power. Just not enough attack power. Something to consider for the future. I think right now, a lot of the characters that we have here are to a point where they're at a reasonable degree. I've moved around a lot of the artifacts that are here. There are some fairly suspect things. Some of these person's artifacts are actually kind of insane. I do want to showcase a couple of them because they're kind of crazy. Take a look at this one right here. This one is a physical damage set with 35% crit damage and 4.1% attack, as well as just crit rate out everywhere. That is an insanely powerful mask that you can definitely take a full advantage of. This is definitely one of the highlights of this account. This mask by itself enables quite a lot of tactics that would normally not work. The child definitely needs a bit of work as well. The unfortunate reality here is that they just don't have enough artifacts for child. There is pretty much zero Heart of the Depth artifacts. Nothing, absolutely not a single one that has been farmed so far. And I don't even know if you would even go for it. The damage increase would not be significant enough to consider it a worthwhile addition. It's definitely one of those things where you're kind of stuck with this kind of power level for now, mainly because the amount of an investment that it would take to change this would be too high for it to be worth it. I don't think you can make this child better with any reasonable amount. Your best option is probably just taking into account some of the artifacts that you have here. Level this one up. The Hydro damage bonus that's currently giving you crit rate as well as a little bit of energy recharge. Not super needed. I would much rather this be something else. Alas, this is the best damage bonus that you have right now. Since the child is part of a vaporized composition, the Elemental Mastery is actually more beneficial, especially because of how powerful these stats are, and because this player has the ammo spell. So the need for attack percentage is lessened by quite a lot. So we can afford to go for more multiplicative damage that will increase it in a more substantial manner. As we can see right here, we have 267% Elemental Mastery, and this child is mainly focused to pair with Bennett, We'll talk about the Bennett in a bit. So, not having as high attack is not that big of a detriment, because we already have the Bennett, because we already have buffers that enable this. So we can afford to be more expensive on the build. It also helps a lot that he has that one particular artifact which is boosting up the crit rate and crit damage. If we were to remove this artifact and change it for something else, we would see that the crit ratio looks atrocious, and it would definitely not be worth the effort. This is probably the best version of Child that you can get. I don't even think I would recommend farming artifacts for this character. Just stick with it as it is right now. And at some point in the future, probably just make this a burst spam build for Child. That might end up being the better option for you. Just using him not as a main DPS, but as a burst support, basically. In which case, you'll probably want to have either Noblesse or Heart of the Depth. It's very hard to enable, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Yeah, EM is not great for Vido. This is unfortunate. The passive is strong, but everything else is not. Oh man, just unfortunate. Rain Slasher doesn't have many people that can use it. I think the only one that can right now to a reasonable degree is probably Diluc. And even he questions the use, since he needs so much attack. But yeah, that's enough for the Child. For the other one, Bennett. Bennett is probably the character that needs the most work right now. Where is Bennett? There he is. Bennett is probably the character that needs the most work right now for this particular composition, apart from Shangling. When you're building Bennett, you basically have three options. Are you going to be building Bennett as a battery? Are you going to be building Bennett as a DPS? Or are you going to be building Bennett as a support? Depending on how you're going to be doing this, is which artifact set you're going to be on for Bennett. In your particular case, the DPS of your Bennett is not actually enough for it to be considered a worthwhile investment to go into a damage build for. For this team, Bennett's field time is probably a single second. It is one press of a C, and that is one press of his Q. That is the entire point for Bennett. He is also with Raiden, which means that he doesn't even need energy recharge. So he can afford to go for more supportive options. Bennett right here, out of everything here, the only number that matters is the max HP and the base attack. Those are the only two numbers that matter for this Bennett in this team. Very important to mention that, in this team. So, if you want cheap damage, the way that you're going to accomplish that is with an Noblesse Oblige set. You don't really have many things that make this Noblesse Oblige practically impressive. These are pretty much like the only two artifacts that could even be remotely good, and that's going to require a lot of luck. But you don't really need the artifacts to be good. The main purpose of this Bennett is exclusively this Bennett is a healer, this Bennett is an attack damage buffer. He is not going to be doing much with his damage. He can do impactful damage, but for this team, it would not be beneficial. He would take too much time off of Tartaglia, he would take too much time off of Raiden. You don't want to be using Bennett in this team as much as possible. You want to go switch into Bennett, hit once with a C, go into the Q. And because of that, Noblesse Oblige is probably your best friend. You could potentially use the Millilith set. I would not recommend it. The time windows are not high enough to the point where this is worth it. Noblesse is going to be better because of the duration. So yeah, that's with the Bennett. This is probably the one that you could change the most if you were to actually farm Noblesse Oblige sets. I don't know if it's worth it. That's kind of the thing that's difficult to say. Because as it stands right now, if you level up the flower, if you level up the... You don't even need to level this up, but if you want to, you can. If you level up the HP, and you just give him like something that says healing bonus, which is this thing that you have right here, this is he doesn't even have a proper thing over here because you don't have noblesse sets. This is probably the best option for this particular Bennett in this particular team. Maybe if you really want to go for it, try to get something like HP percentage or pyro damage bonus. Entirely up to you, it doesn't really matter. This Bennett's entire purpose is going to be taking advantage of his attack buff and taking advantage of Fantastic Voyage. So you can afford to be lazy, if you will. The only part here that truly matters is probably going to be the flower and probably the HP percentage on this side. As for the other team member that needs a lot of work, this one does need a lot of work. This is Xiangling. Currently, you have a lot of very strong Shiminawa Reminiscence artifacts, which is really good because the Shiminawa set provides the same bonus as Gladiator, which means that you can take advantage of a lot of characters. This Xiangling already has a lot of really good artifacts that are very strong. You have fairly strong crit damage here, fairly strong attack power on things like this plume over here. However, and there's a pretty big however, crit rate is a problem. And it is something that's not super easy to fix. Because a lot of other things that would usually fix the crit rate kind of intrude on the other characters. Weaponry is also a big problem. Since right now, this is not horrible. This is actually already at the point where it's usable. Crit rate starts to hit diminishing returns when you get to, I think it was like 60 crit rate and 120 crit damage. That's usually like the main point where you want to be. The true diminishing returns start at 75, 150. That's where crit becomes less valuable than attack. Depending on the situation. But usually that's the case. So this crit rate, while not unusable, and already at a point where this is pretty good, you definitely want to try to boost this up. Which is why I would recommend that you try to go for the catch. Right now, she's using the Crescent Pike, not because it has a benefit to her. This Xiangling is built entirely for pyro damage, and you should probably build her for pyro damage in this particular case. You could build her for physical damage with the Crescent Pike, but the Crescent Pike is only at rank 1, and at that point, with the investment that you already have into pyro DPS, and with the investment that's already into Xiangling, she's not a C0 Xiangling, she is a C5 Xiangling, which is where pyro DPS really starts to pick up. You're much better off going for the pyro DPS variant and trying to get the catch. The catch will pretty much fix this Xiangling and put her into a very, very powerful situation. The artifacts that you have right here, honestly, they're fine. You don't really have to farm too much for them, because the ones that you have are pretty good. You have enough crit rate to where it's worth it, you have enough attack power to where it's worth it, you have enough of everything that you need for this Xiangling, except the weapon. If you get the catch, this will probably be one of the better characters that you have access to. So when it comes to Xiangling, try to get the catch as quickly as you can. If you need fish, just tell me, I'll let you go into my world. And the last part of this particular team that we have right here is the Shogun herself. And this Shogun has a pretty decent build. There's definitely a lot of places where it can be improved a little bit, but honestly, it's just so difficult to build the Shogun early on because of how much resources she needs. She needs a lot of energy recharge, she needs a lot of crit rate, she needs a lot of different things to make her work properly. So she's definitely one of those characters that can be difficult to build. The one thing that makes her easy to build is the catch, which gives her 12% crit rate for the elemental burst, which is the part that matters. But in your particular case, the catch is likely to go to Xiangling, not the Raiden Shogun. Because of that, what I would actually try to do, if there's ever a possibility for it, if there's ever a banner that's beneficial, the Primordial Jade Winged Spear would actually be very, very good here. It would fix a lot of your crit rate issues, which you don't really have that much. This is already usable. This is already good. This is already enough. The energy recharge is at pretty much the exact rate that you need it to be. The crit rate and the crit damage is at an acceptable degree. It's not the highest damage in the world, of course, but it doesn't have to be. It's already at the point where it'll be past the mark that you need it to be. This is a full team. This is not just the Raiden Shogun. This isn't Hyper Carry Raiden. This is a burst DPS Raiden in conjunction with Bennett. So even if these stats are not incredibly insane, they're already at the point where they're good enough. Higher investment into the Raiden, into the artifact department, will just be a waste of resin. Because I'm gonna be real. The percentage chance that you will get better artifacts than this is very, very low. The only one where you would actually have like a reasonable reason to change would probably be the energy recharge one. This one is not great. This is the one that would have the most impactful changes. And even that is very difficult to accomplish because the way that artifacts are weighted towards Genshin, if we go into this particular set and we are trying to get a energy recharge stance with crit rate, it's just going to take very long. If you want to go for that investment, go for it. But keep in mind, there are 10 artifacts in the set, out of which only one of them is the one that you need, out of which there is a 1 in 20 chance to get the energy recharge substat, out of which there is a additive 1/8, 1/7, 1/6 chance of getting the crit rate substat with a 1/4 percentage chance of maybe getting an additional roll. It is a goddamn mess. It is impossible to explain. But essentially, the percentage chance that you will get a energy recharge sans for the Emblem of Severed Fates with a crit rate roll is so insanely low, it will take a long, long time. The average, if my math is correct, was like you're gonna get one of those for 3 weeks of constant farming. And once you get to that point, you have to level it and you have to hope that it rolls into crit rate. It is such a mess. The artifact system definitely needs a big change. I'm hopeful that at some point we'll be able to re-roll the substats. Even just re-rolling the substat would be a massive improvement of what we have right now. Because of all those factors, I don't think you should try to keep on improving the Raiden. I think the Raiden's already at a point where she is more than usable. You ended up getting this one, which is selector damage bonus. This is actually the highest damage bonuses if you have Bennett, and you're pairing her with Bennett, so this makes the most sense. If you were to try to change her to do just more personal damage, if you really wanted to go for the personal Raiden, I don't even know if you have enough to enable that either. I don't think that, funny enough, God, this is just painful to look at. Like, this is such a good artifact, and it rolled, what is that, 4 times into defense? That is so painful. That is so painful to watch. The pain is real. The pain is real. Yeah, this one's definitely better. But yeah, this one is probably going to be it for that particular team. We'll go ahead and we'll move over to the Hu Tao team. I went ahead and I moved a couple of things around for the Hu Tao. The Hu Tao used to have the Witch's Heart Flame and just like random artifacts that were put on her. I think she had this one, which was a pretty good one, but not really that much better than the other options that we have available. So this is the version of Hu Tao that I settled on when I took a look at all the artifact sets. Essentially, this is the most reasonable version of Hu Tao that you can build with what you have right now. The Elemental Mastery increase from the Wanderer's Troop set is actually fairly significant for Hu Tao. The damage increase that you get from it is not that minimal. It will, at this point in time, with the amount that you have right here, it's already increasing Vaporize damage by 25%. And the way that works is a multiplicative bonus to the 1.5 that it normally does. Hu Tao is interrupting me, but it's whatever. We'll switch. So this 25% extra damage to Vaporize is more impactful than you might imagine. It is 25% to that 1.5 bonus. So it's essentially turning it into Melt rather than Vaporize. You're effectively melting most of your targets when you hit them with Vaporize because of the Elemental Mastery. And in the particular team that you have, because you have Beto, you can increase that even further thanks to his... not this one. This one. Thanks to homuncular nature. You can increase the elemental mastery even higher to 125, which is actually exactly the diminishing return threshold. So, Hu Tao, good elemental mastery, really good max HP bonus, really good attack power overall. When it comes to weaponry, I'm gonna be real with you. The only weapon that you could get for Hu Tao that would increase your damage would be the Staff of Homa. If you have the chance to get it, you can try to get it. It would probably be the most impactful thing that you could try to go for when it comes to Hu Tao in particular. So it might be a good idea to start saving up for that, even if it is on the horrible weapon system. It might be a good idea to skip on a lot of characters that are going to be coming up in order to try to get that. When it comes to characters that you need, there really isn't a character that you need. It would be nice to have Ganyu, it would be nice to have Eula, it would be nice to have other characters that are coming out, but you don't need them. You already have a very powerful Tao, you already have a very powerful Raiden, you already have a very powerful Tartaglia. The only one that would be reasonable would probably be Ganyu, because you have the Amos Bow. If you didn't have the Amos Bow, it wouldn't be that big of a question. And here, this is something that you probably want to ask yourself. Would you rather have a Ganyu with the Amos Bow and enable her with your current setups, which would more than likely be things like Rosaria and Sucrose? It wouldn't be the best, if I'm being honest. Your Hydra enabling power is pretty much Xingqiu and Barbara. It would still be usable. It would definitely be usable. But I don't know if that would be that smart. In here, would Tartaglia work? No, it wouldn't. Realistically, the only character that you could reasonably go for would be Ganyu, and your team synergies are not really strong enough for me to consider the investment worth it. At least not at this point in time. Mainly because your other teams are already so powerful that Ganyu wouldn't really be adding that much to the mix. It would be giving you freeze reactions, which would be pretty strong, but it's debatable if that's something that you need. I would think about it, and I would keep an eye out for it. But I wouldn't put all my bets into it. I would much rather see something like trying to get a better weapon for Raiden, trying to get the Staff of Homa for Hu Tao. That is probably where you would get a better mileage out of your Primo Gems than trying to go for more characters. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Not really. The only other one that could even be a consideration would be Eula, and that is mainly because your Xinyan is at C6. My god, I don't know if this is lucky or unlucky. Xinyan is one hell of a character because of this ability right here. Impromptu opening. The physical damage of her burst has 100% crit rate. I cannot understate how powerful this ability is, but I also cannot understate how expensive this build is. And it needs a lot to enable it. But if you were to be able to get this to work properly, she would be doing a lot of damage. A lot of damage. Eula would basically be kind of a forceful character that you need for that. And I just don't know if it's worth it. I just don't know if it's worth it. You definitely have the Snow Tomb Star Silver, and you have enough prototypes to build 2 of these. So you do have free-to-play weapons that would work for it, and there is a lot of advantages to doing this. I just don't know if it's enough. I just don't know if it's enough. If you ever get a 5-star Greatsword, I would consider Eula. But until then, it's kind of just a tempting character to consider. Right now, if you are going for characters, those are probably the two that I'm looking at. There is a third one that might be impactful, but we just don't know enough about that character. Because you have the Lost Prayer of the Sacred Winds, and because you have a very, very strong Electro teams, we're talking about C5 Bido, we're talking about C2 Raiden, there is a world where you go for Yae as one of your potential DPS characters. Depending on how good Yae is, this might be something to consider. If you want my opinion, your best bet at the moment is probably to go for Homa. Save up all of your gems, and whenever we get some information about Yae, either decide whether you're going to be using that for Yae or for a weapon for Raiden. Those are probably your two options at the moment. Well, the characters that you have right now, I find it more beneficial to roll on the weapon banner. Yeah, that is sadly what you're going to be getting to at some point or another. The weapon banner is a scam. We all know that for a fact. It is horrible. It is not good. But after you get to a certain degree, it's your best bet at a damage bonus. There's only so much that a character can give you without a proper weapon. And a lot of these players are already getting to that limit. We're already seeing this with the Raiden Shogun, we're already seeing this with Hu Tao, we're already seeing this with a lot of these characters. A lot of the damage dealers for this player, the only thing they're being limited by is, surprisingly enough, not artifacts. It's weaponry. Weaponry is the main limiting factor right now. The artifacts of this player are objectively in the top percentage of rolled artifacts. They are far and above the acceptable line for what you need for characters. We have something like this for Hu Tao, which has a lot of crit rate and crit damage. We have things like this mask right here, which has 35 crit damage. This is insane on a crit rate piece. And even with artifacts this good, it is still difficult to find good things to use them for. When it comes to resin farming, frankly, I think you've done enough for a lot of these characters. Your Shimenawa pieces are insane. We have one right here, which is giving you 14% crit rate with crit damage on top of it. You have a lot of very good generic pieces that can be transferred over between different characters to get really, really beneficial buffs to those characters without having to worry too much about them. At this point in time, if you're going to be farming for artifacts, what I would recommend that you do is that you do so for Venereer sets. You do not have a single Venereer artifact or Venereer set that's available to you. In fact, I'm pretty sure that this part right here is probably one of the few ones that you have. Venereer is 100% what you need right now. And it is definitely the thing that I would recommend that you go for. Try to get a Venereer EM set for Sucrose, if possible. And potentially a damage one for Jean, since that's probably where you're going to be getting a lot of benefits from. Mainly, right now, try to get one good Venereer set. That should probably be your objective when it comes to relics. When it comes to weaponry, either Staff of Homa or Jade Primordial Jade Winged Spear. I'm never going to get that right on the first one. One of those two. There is also a weapon that might come out in the future. We know to expect a cryo polearm user sometime in the future. We don't know when, but we know to expect something of that sort. So, depending on how powerful that weapon might end up being, that is also something to consider. But right now, those are probably the two weapons that you should probably try to focus on. If you are going to be going for characters, it's honestly going to be a toss-up between Yae and Ganyu. Eula is also up for consideration. But if you want my realistic view on it, it's either going to be Ganyu or Yae, and Yae is probably the one that has the most value for you when it comes to team synergy, since she's likely to be the one that's going to synergize better with the characters that you have access to. If you had something like a Venti, if you had something like a Mona, I would probably tell you to go with Ganyu. but as it stands right now, it would pretty much just be Ganyu against the world, which is not bad by itself, but it's debatable whether it's enough. Especially because your team's already so heavily invested into that going for a character that has a high ceiling that you can't enable while you already have characters that are already at the high ceiling that you can enable is probably not the best way to go about it. The crit rate Claymore, oh, that would be amazing. If we get a crit rate Claymore, that would be incredible. If you do manage to get that, this Xinyan strategy is looking more tempting. Not for Xinyan herself, but because you could give that crit rate Claymore to Eula, and at that point that would work really, really well. If you do ever plan on going for the Xinyan strategy, I would recommend that you get the Black Cliff Slasher, you give that to Xinyan, and then you just get as much crit damage as possible. The only thing that Xinyan cares about is crit damage. As many of the best crit damage artifacts that you can enable, that is definitely what you would do. Apart for the other team that we have right here, two things that probably need some work. The Zhongli, it had a DPS build before, which is not bad. It's definitely not a bad build, and it is something that you can enable a lot for Zhongli center teams. So it's a good thing that you already have enabled, but you do need a support variant. Because in this particular team that you have right here, Zhongli has probably a relevance of like 5% of the damage at most. So switching over to 5% is probably going to be better. Zhongli is not the character that's going to be on the field for a majority of the time, so a lot of his damage is kind of locked behind that. The only real thing that you're getting damage from is Dominus Lapidus and the Meteor. And both of those, since they scale off of HP, you can definitely afford a support variant. I went ahead and I took a look at the artifacts that you have right here. This is the best that you can enable right now. What I would recommend is to probably go for a Archaic Petra on the Zhongli and a Millilith set on the Albedo. That is probably going to be the highest damage bonus that you can get. If you want to put Millilith on Zhongli, that is also an option, and the Archaic Petra on Beidou. I would prefer Archaic Petra on Beidou, because Beidou has more damage and he takes more advantage of it, and Millilith on Zhongli. That is probably what you would go for. The Beidou right now is just built randomly. This artifacts do not matter. The only thing they matter for is because they give him a lot of crit damage and they give him a lot of defense. That is the reason why he's using these artifacts right now. I would definitely like to see Archaic Petra here, Tenacity of the Millilith here. They don't even have to be that good. For Beidou in particular, frankly, you just need like defense, and heck, you could even just go with defense here if you get one with enough crit damage. Since the Beidou is going to be using Harbinger of Dawn, a lot of the crit stats don't really matter. While this crit rate looks low, remember that that's because Beidou is not on the field right now. When he's on the field, he's going to be increased by 28%, which brings this to a much, much more reasonable degree. Around 66%, which is more reasonable. So crit damage is not really that super important. That's one of the good things about Beidou and Zhongli. They both can be built as support characters incredibly cheaply. Zhongli in particular can also be built as DPS, but that does require a little bit more investment. Not too much, but just a wee bit. In this particular case, if you do want to build DPS Zhongli, you do actually have the resources for it. You would need Crescent Pike, and you would probably go with Fischl, Xingqiu, Beidou. That would probably be what you do for DPS Zhongli. I don't think that would be that beneficial at the moment. There might be some scenarios where you might have to do that. But because Hu Tao is just such an exception to pretty much everything, it just makes more sense to funnel a lot of the resources to her. When it comes to weapons, frankly, for support Zhongli, there's not really that many weapons that make sense. You can probably just use the Black Tassel for the HP percentage. This is just a stat stick. It doesn't really matter. If you want, you can level it up. You could just give him another one of these for something, but the benefits that you get from weapons are close to meaningless for the Zhongli. So the one that gives the most is, surprisingly enough, the Black Tassel. The only reason is because it gives HP. That is legitimately the only reason. If you ever get another spear that gives HP, that's a 4-star, that would probably go on Zhongli. Or if we ever get a spear that has a good passive, similar to Pavonia's, maybe something like a buffing passive, that would probably go to Zhongli. For now, this is probably the cheapest option, and this is probably the one that gives you the most benefit. So those are probably the two things that you should try to work on. The good thing for the Zhongli right now is we have this one right here, which is already part of the Millith set, and it does have a significant amount of crit damage, a little bit of HP. It rolled a bit more into defense, which is, it's fine, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, you already have the good start, you already have a really good start when it comes to that. You also have a Geo damage bonus artifacts that can also be fairly beneficial. Take your pick out of this ones, whichever one you need the most, whether you need more crit rate or whether you need more crit damage. That's going to be up to you whenever you actually farm the Millith set, based on what you get. You can choose from these two. That pretty much does it for the Zhongli. Level up the Black Tassel for a good weapon at the moment. And for Beidou, Harbinger of Dawn is already at max. This is definitely going to be the weapon that you want. If you want maximum damage potential, you go full Archaic Petra. If you just don't care enough, this Beidou is already doing enough damage. So if you only care about the damage from Beidou, you can just keep this build as it is. If you want to buff Hu Tao, you would go with Archaic Petra, which might not actually be that bad of an idea. Anyways, because where is... There she is. You do have a Ningguang, and the Ningguang can eventually become powerful. I would probably not use her until you go higher in constellations. C2 is the point where I would say the Ningguang becomes a worthwhile character. Anything before that, it's kind of debatable. But it wouldn't be a bad thing to go for Archaic Petra. You have a lot of Geo characters that would take a benefit from it. So definitely consider that. Archaic Petra and Venerier set. Take your pick of which one's more impactful. I would say that you should probably go for Venerier first, because that enables more teams. That enables the taster composition with Sucrose, Raiden, Baido, Xingqiu. It enables a lot more pure pyro damage builds that you could possibly do with both Jean and Sucrose plus Bennett and another character, maybe like Shangling, for example, just to do a massive amount of damage with some sustain. A lot of things to consider. I would definitely prioritize Venerier. Then I would probably go for Millith or Archaic Petra, whichever one you find to be the easiest one. Millith is likely going to be the one that ends up going to that one. And lastly, Hu Tao. Honestly, your Hu Tao is pretty much perfect as it is right now. You are, with the current setup that you have right now, the only way to make Hu Tao stronger is to increase your crit damage. Even increasing the HP will not do anything, because you're about to reach the limit of Spirit Soother. You are, I think it was like 500 HP away from the limit. So with 500 more HP, Hu Tao cannot get stronger. Or got out of the afterlife by that. So, yeah. It's the unfortunate reality. So, investing further into Hu Tao, just not the way to go. Just not the way to go. The only thing here is that I did switch one of the artifacts that you had on her. This HP artifact is better than the other one that you had, so I would probably level this up to full. Once you do that, the damage difference will be quite noticeable. So yeah, as far as the account is concerned, the account is honestly beautiful. There's so much flexibility here, there's so much power, the ceiling is incredibly high, and the amount of investment that has been put into it can definitely be seen, just from looking into it from an outside perspective. This account should very easily be able to clear most content in the game, barring some very few abyss exceptions. It's honestly pretty impressive. If you want to go further, try to get Homa. Maybe C1 at some point. It's a lot of investment, so it's difficult to ask for. But yeah, those are kind of the things that you want to do. For artifacts, get Venerier, get Millith. For weaponry, try to get Staff of Homa. or the Jade Spear, and start setting up for other characters. If we're going for constellations, the only one that matters is probably a C1 for Hu Tao. Maybe the C2 for Zhongli. Those two would probably be the only ones that you care about. Maybe at some point in the future. I don't think it's necessary. Apart from that, doesn't need it. Doesn't need it. Pain. If you end up getting the second one, this is actually really good for Jean. Pretty much it. Not much else to say. Just a really powerful account all around. Serpent Spine, that's a good one. Alrighty. So with all of that out of the way, I think the only thing that we can probably do is just prove my theories a little bit. These are the two teams that I made out of everything the player had, and we're just gonna be testing them out, and we're gonna be showcasing how strong the composition is, despite some of the artifacts not being built. This Zhongli, in fact, has, I think, 1 artifact that's leveled. 2. Okay, 3. Never mind. So we're gonna be doing a quick run of Abyss, and we're gonna see how far we can get. Pretty much it. We're just gonna shove the characters into Abyss, and we're gonna see how far we can get into Abyss. So we'll start from the very beginning. Let's see. So we have to fight. We're just gonna be going through this. We're gonna see how far we can get, and we'll see how many stars we can get this player. I don't know for how long we're gonna be doing this, but you can't hear me, huh? Am I getting the same issue that I had last time? Let's see, because the audio is coming in from my side. Let's see, can you hear me now? Let me take a look into this. This also happened last time, and I'm not sure what the issue is with this. Okay, so it seems like some people can hear me and some people can't. Yeah, I don't know why. This was also happening last time, where some people couldn't hear me and some people could. Try refreshing the page, see if... Well, I guess you can't hear me, so... this is probably a problem with YouTube. You hear me now? Yeah, that's weird. I don't know what happened. That also happened in the last stream, and the weird thing is the VOD didn't have the audio, but people live could hear me. So I'm curious as to why that's happening. But anywho, we're going to be going ahead and we're going to be putting some of the teams. Hu Tao, Zhongli. Oh, completely forgot about that. Before we go into that, another character that you probably want to take a look into is going to be your Xingqiu. You're probably in the middle of building it, so I'm not gonna go too much into it. Sacrificial Sword, definitely a good choice, especially for the build that you're going for. If you can, I would try to enable the Emblem of Sword Fates. It's not doable as it stands right now. You're missing a lot of the crit rate. This that you have right here is probably the best artifact sets that you can enable at the moment. The crit damage is not really that high, but you do have a couple artifacts here that if you get a couple rolls, it will be to a usable degree. These are the artifacts that I would use for your Xingqiu out of the ones that you have. The crit damage does not look super pretty right now, but you only need like 1 or 2 rolls, and you have 3 different artifacts that can give you that. So this is probably what I would use. Try to level up the Sacrificial Sword. You have 2 of these. I would definitely refine them into it. As it stands right now, doesn't really matter that he's not going to be doing that much damage because your Hu Tao is incredibly powerful. So, with all of that out of the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go Tardy Glass, Raiden, Benny Boy, and Shangling. A lot of these characters are underleveled. A lot of them don't have fully built artifacts. I am incredibly confident in my ability to 36-star this Abyss if I had enough time. I don't think I have enough time. I might be able to just clear it. No problem. I don't think I'm going to go for 36 stars. Also, it's not my account. I don't even know if I have permission to do this. I just kind of want to showcase a little bit of the characters. I don't even have to go for, oh! Wait, my Shangli... Did the Shangli shield break? I guess he doesn't have that much HP. Man, the Albedo is hitting really hard already. As you can see, there's a lot of really good things here. Let's see, how much damage is that hitting for? 14k, that's not bad. That is a pretty significant amount of damage. Wow, that is so annoying. 84k on the 84k on the burst. Yeah, this Utao is very strong. I'm not even playing it properly. I'm just kind of running around, just experimenting a little bit, just to see how powerful a lot of these characters are. Oh, so you got killed by the Shangli pillar. You took all of that damage from the Shangli pillar. That is so funny. I haven't even used Shengqiu. This is a pretty satisfying team. I will say that right now. It's very, very satisfying. I definitely have to play it a little bit better. Not used to having Shangli. And this one is super powerful. So the good thing about these combos is that you can do stuff like this. You can go into Bennett, get a little bit of energy for Shangling, switch into her, snapshot the damage, go into... Oh my god, that was 100k. Holy shit, that is really powerful. Go into Tartaglia, and pretty much just attack for the entire duration of Shangling. I wasn't doing that because I was kind of explaining. Then switch into Raiden, do her damage, if I don't get stuck on that. Recharge the energy of the team, and if you actually attack properly, you would actually get enough to recharge pretty much everything. My god, that was... I can only focus on a couple things at once. If I'm focusing on talking, I'm not focusing on the game. Let's actually go ahead and clear this, shall we? The Beidou is really, really nice. I do have to say that right now. The Beidou is... My god. The Albedo has a lot of damage to it already. I'm really happy with the damage potential here. Let's go ahead and do that before it finishes, so we still get the bonus. Switch into Beidou. Hit hard. Dominus Lapidus. I'm just gonna do that for fun. So what's happening to Shangli's shield? Because it's disappearing way too quickly. Is there something that I'm missing? Everyone that can build defense artifacts are on my side, pretty much. Yeah, the Shangli shield didn't appear. Is it just a glitch? Or am I just not seeing it? Am I that blind? Yeah, this team is incredibly satisfying. I'm not gonna lie, this is so good. A lot of damage potential. A lot of damage potential. It does look like the Shangling is missing a little bit of energy recharge. Should be fine once you get the catch. Once you get the catch, that'll be an additional, what is it, like 59% energy recharge. So there should be no issues there. The only one that might have a bit of an issue is the Raiden, but even the Raiden should be fine at generating her energy. I think these teams are honestly really strong. That feels really good. Let's go ahead and Zhongli. Why is the pillar not appearing? I have to hold it. God damn it. I'm dumb. It's the hold variant that releases the pillar. Another thing to note here, the Resonance is not doing an insignificant amount of damage. It is actually doing quite a significant portion of a lot of the power that we have right here. I need to get used to the Hu Tao timings. My god. I've not played Hu Tao since the trial and the rerun. I don't have her. So I have to get used to the jump cancelling and all that. I imagine that a more proficient Hu Tao player would do significantly better than me. I also misplayed here because I didn't activate the Raiden burst, which is not the end of the world. We're gonna do it right now. Oh, you moved right out of it. That sucks. Just die. I don't want to waste resources trying to kill you. Alright, so these guys are going to follow me. I'm going to use that to my advantage. Ton of AoE damage. Ton of power. This team is kind of crazy. A lot of burst potential. I think this team in particular is going to be probably really good against bosses. Things like the Hypostasis, things like the Magokenki. This team is probably going to be the one that you're going to be using for a lot of those really hard burst damage where they have immunity frames that you can't do significant damage like with Hu Tao. Speaking of annoyance, I need to remember, shield is only for that one. Can I... Ah, damn it. I wanted to kill him with the last one, but I didn't do it properly. I want to paralyze this. And see how much damage that does. That is a lot of damage. Yeah, that is a lot of damage. The Hu Tao feels nice. I will say that right now. The one problem with Hu Tao is just how expensive she is, but this player has already managed to fix that problem. So the Hu Tao feels incredibly satisfying. Where'd the other one go? There you are. The only thing that's kind of unfortunate here is that because of the timings, you don't actually get that much from... because of the weird timings, you kind of have to choose which character you're going to give the Bennett buff to. I think the most impactful one right now is probably Tartaglia, mainly because the damage of Raiden doesn't really change without the Bennett buff that much, but Tartaglia's does. His damage changes very significantly because he is a exponential character. So without that Bennett buff, you do see a pretty significant damage decrease with Tartaglia's effectiveness. Whereas with Raiden, while still noticeable, it's not as much. Before I forget, because this one is actually important, if I remember correctly, floor 10 has the heralds, so we probably have to take a look and see how far we can go with this. But yeah, the teams are insane. They're pretty strong. So let's see what we got here. We got Stonehide Lava Churls, Lector of his Mages, that doesn't matter. Lector on the first and Torrents on the second one. Oh boy, how are we gonna do this one? Torrents is gonna be the most annoying one because we don't have any cryo. Let's see. Raiden is probably gonna be our best bet for that one. So we're gonna be using the Raiden team on the second one. Let's go with Tardy Glass, Raiden, Bennett, Shangling. Bennett and Shangling together should be able to make enough pyros to where this should be fine. And Raiden is also really good at dealing with the Electro Shield when she has her infusion up. So I feel this should be fine. And for the other one, Hu Tao should be more than enough for the Lector. We go Shanglei. Where is Sheng Chou? No, not Lisa. And there we go. Honestly, really impressive showing for teams in particular. The way that we're going to be doing floor 11, we're probably going to be switching either the Zhongli or the Albedo for Jean. That's probably what we're going to be doing for floor 11. How did that freeze me? Yeah, you can tell I'm not used to these compositions. I should have used the Zhongli first. Once this Xingqiu is fully built, because right now I don't think we're getting that much power from it. Once the Xingqiu is fully built, because I'm pretty sure the Sack Sword is still level 1 right now, energy is not going to be an issue. You already have more than enough. You already have more than enough to keep 100% sustained. Really fun teams. I am really impressed with just how well you have managed to build everything that you have right here. Ooh, that hit me. That's fine. I'm pretty sure that the gimmick of this floor is actually that these guys heal him. So I should have probably attacked them first. Whoopsie daisies. Oh my god. Do just a little bit of damage over here. This should be enough for the Raiden really quickly. Just need one particle. There we go. Honestly, this Abyss is probably going to be very easy for this player. I don't think he's going to have to worry about anything. Floor 11 should be fine as well. We even got crit rate, my god. That's crazy. Oh, here's one thing that I want to test out. So, if I do that... Yeah, that is very strong. It wasn't enough to one-shot him, but it was definitely enough to impress me. I was unfortunately messing around a bit too much, so now I have to deal with their shields, which is going to be a bit of an issue. I need to kill this one before he gets a chance to heal, which I don't think I did, unfortunately. Honestly, really satisfying teams. I'm just gonna have to say it. The teams are just insane. There's a lot of flexibility in here, and there's a lot of really good potential. This is definitely a really good example of good things to aim for. Just the general value characters. A lot of very flexible supports that have benefits to them. We're just gonna try. I'm just trying to juggle this while I'm waiting for the cooldowns to go off. Where do you teleport to? As far as how we're gonna be getting rid of this guy's shield, we're actually gonna be doing that with Overloaded. There we go. And now we can just do this. Perfect. Even against shields, there's a lot of flexibility here with the Electro element, because you can use Overloaded for Geo shields. You can destroy Cryo because you have a lot of Pyro. Pyro shields themselves don't really stand a chance because Tartaglia, and even Water shields don't stand a chance because Raiden. A lot of flexibility when it comes to shield destruction. I think the only one that this one would struggle with would probably be... No, even Electro shields. Even Electro shields wouldn't be able to withstand double Pyro. Yeah, that team is really, really good against shields. I keep on messing that up. Oh, that was a healer. Oh no, I should have focused that one. Oh well. It's not the end of the world. I have Zhongli, why am I dodging? I'm not used to having Zhongli. You can definitely tell. I'm way too used to having to dodge. Yep, it seems like we're going to be able to do this incredibly easy. It took just a minute to deal with Elector, despite the incredibly low investment a lot of those characters have. Just as a reminder, 3 of those characters have 3-star weapons. And the 4th character that has the 4-star weapon, the weapon is level 1. Oh, you guys heal, don't you? Oh my god. This is the last chamber, right? I don't need the Bennett. I might need the Bennett. These Electro guys, they do significantly more damage than you would imagine at a first one. I might miss the mark because I screwed up with the Bennett. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Oh. Yeah, that's yeah, we're not gonna get the 3-star on this one. We might actually. We'll see. No. This doesn't generate energy. You know what? Just because. I'm gonna reset this one because I feel we can do the 3-star. Oh, you're going away, Nazi? That's fine. Have a good one. We're pretty much just gonna see how far we can go into. I'm pretty sure that despite me having like no experience with this team and just how poorly I'm playing it, this team is insane. Like, this is an incredibly powerful account. I definitely need to practice a little bit more with this girl right here. The really good thing about this particular Raiden team is that even when you are on the quote-unquote recharge phase, the damage is still really high. You still have access to pretty much a proper electric charge composition. God, I forgot how horrible it was to deal with shields when you don't have a Yaka. This guy is a pain and a half. I've definitely been too spoiled by how good Ayaka is at killing these guys. I guess that's probably how Zhongli players feel when they have to dodge. It looks like we will be able to get the 3 stars though. Unless that happens. Let's see. Can Gooba take care of this? Yes, he can. Oh man. Way more complicated than it had to be. But yeah, this is probably the one that you have choked like an addict. Oh no. Let's see. This one's probably going to be the one where we're going to be having the most issues, but again, I think that this team is very, very strong by its own regard, so I don't think it's going to matter that much. I'm probably going to keep the Albedo, because Albedo's actually being a very, very significant portion of our damage. So instead I'm going to replace Zhongli with Jean, and hopefully this will be enough. Now, for the second team, this one's going to be more difficult. I do think that Bennett has enough healing, despite his low investment, to where he will be enough. But this is going to be the worrisome one. I think the way that we're probably going to have to play this one is we're going to have to... probably just try to burst everything down, really. That seems to be like the only way that it's going to work. Which is really, really disappointing. That is exactly what I want to avoid. Alas. I probably should have actually paid attention to what was on the floor. I definitely need to be more mindful of stamina when I'm playing Hu Tao. Again, not super used to Hu Tao. We'll do that, we'll do that, we'll do that. Oop, mistime that. We'll go Jean. Go ahead and kill the team again. Oh god, Jean is such a savior for this floor. Let's go ahead and kill off with the Jean. And then we'll go ahead and do that, because that will also heal us, and it'll kill pretty much everything. Oh man, this Hu Tao, even without the Homa. This is a good thing about Hu Tao. Her ease of building her personal damage. The main problem with her is always going to be the supports, but when you do have the supports enabled, she feels really good. I might honestly consider building her, or going for her next. I don't know though, I kind of want to get Albedo C2 before I focus on getting any new characters. I don't want to miss my chance at Albedo C2, because I know that if they do a rerun for Albedo, the chances that I'm going to see him again, considering how unpopular he is, are going to be very, very minimal. Yeah, we're gonna struggle here with the healing if we're not careful. Thankfully for us, the right and artifacts are incredibly powerful. So we're getting a lot of energy. Let's heal him, heal her, heal you, and then let's see if we can get some healing for the boy, which we do. Important part is we have to kill this guy. The longer that guy lives, the harder our life will be. So I don't care if I burst him down. Ooh, that's bad. That's really bad. That's really unfortunate. I don't think we can do this without the Bennett, so we are going to have to reset. I have my Albedo at C1, yes. Albedo, Mona, Shongli, Bennett, Burst Swap. That would actually be pretty good. They all have really low cooldown spams, and the animations would give you, like, what? 6 seconds of immunity for everything? Yeah. I'm kind of convincing myself. I think I am going to be rolling for Albedo on C2. I kind of wanted to save for a weapon, but there's not really any that are good that are upcoming. The only thing that I really need is like a powerful spear, and there's not really that many that I would care for. I'm just gonna... Man, Jean is so good. I'm definitely a big Jean fan. I'm getting slightly better with Utao. Takes a little bit of practice. Homa. Yeah, Homa's a good idea. The thing is, I don't even think Homa would be that good for me. I might try to go for Homa. That's not a horrible idea. Let's see, who would I use it on? I guess it's always a really good weapon for Shangling, even if I don't end up using it on Raiden. Homa's not a bad idea. I might try to go for that one. Let's see. I know that somebody posted leaks for the Homa banner that supposedly was going to have the Ammo's Bow on it. And if it does have the Ammo's Bow, that would be an incentive to me to get Ganyu. Oh man. Am I really going to try to build Ganyu? I might. Oh, Jesus. As long as this guy lives, I don't feel like I can do much of anything. Those guys are probably some of the most frustrating. They're not difficult to deal with. They're not... I might die here. Quick swap. We are barely going to... We're barely going to survive that, and I don't think we have enough to keep on healing. Did that guy just teleport? Well, yeah. Wow. That really just happened. Oh my god, this floor is so frustrating. I might actually switch the build just to include another healer. You think it's fake? It might be fake. I would much prefer it if it was another weapon. Homa, what's up? Homa plus Ammo's Bow doesn't seem that unreasonable though. Especially if they are trying to sell. It would make a lot of sense for that to be. Okay, so the second team is gonna need more healers. Bennett's not gonna be enough. I'm just gonna switch over for I'm gonna switch over Shangling for someone like Diona. Shangling is not really doing much of anything because she's not built properly. Let's abandon that. Jean, Beto. I like it more like this. Second team is going to be these two. We're going to add Bennett, and we're going to add Diona, I guess? It takes too much time. I also don't even know if... Let me see if I can be lazy, actually. So... How built is this? Not at all. In the process, I might be able to pull something. I might be able to pull something dumb here. Okay, we're doing this. What are the chances this person has 2 defense artifacts already built? Pretty much 0, right? There's no way somebody has 2 defense artifacts. Yeah, I imagined as much. Well, you know, that one's good enough. Yeah, that is not great. How many constellations does she have? She has 2 of them. Good enough for healing. Are there any crit rate artifacts that I can steal? Not really. You know what? Screw it. I just need healing. So I'm gonna take Noelle. You have a feeling the child weapon banner will have the WGS? That is, oh god, I have no idea what weapon that is. I do know that we pretty much have a leaked weapon that looks like it's gonna be the child particular weapon. So we're probably gonna be taking a look into that. God, what am I doing? Jean, Shengqiu, Beidou, and then over here we're going to be going for Child, Raiden, that's going to be the main combo, we're going to be going for you, and we're going to be bringing you. The hastily built, no crit rate, Noelle. Whole Mine, one of the shield weapons. That actually feels more realistic. Wait, you survived? Alright, so do this, do that. Apply Hydro, so now you can swirl. Go ahead and go for the hit. Do that for funsies. Not gonna lie, this few interactions that I've had with Jean, this kind of just reaffirms my long belief that Jean is insane. She doesn't even have a good weapon. I don't even know what weapon this Jean has, and she's already doing so much damage. So much healing. I did not have the E up for that. Oh, the Wolf's Gravestone, that makes sense. You know, Wolf's Gravestone might actually not be that bad for someone to roll for. It is a pretty good, funnily enough, support item. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna delay the timer. I'm gonna wait for the thing to go down as I heal with Noelle. So that way we don't lose too much. There we go. So now we can go ahead and do this with Bennett. Go ahead and just gonna try to break the shield. Kill you because you're annoying. And now I have Child. Why don't I break them with him? Alright, so now we should be able to just do that. And we'll go back into healing mode. Despite the hastily built Noelle, that ended up working pretty well. And now we should be able to just electrocharge the rest while we get energy. Oh, it died. Oh no, I wanted to heal off of him. I need to heal up the child. The good thing for this floor is that even though it's incredibly annoying, it doesn't have as much of a time limit as the other ones. So I can take my time and I can heal some of the characters for the next floor, which is going to be really, really helpful. Because the next floor is incredibly annoying. I'm pretty sure that the next one has the Kairagi. Yeah, the HP drain is very annoying for Albedo. The good thing about it is that his E does snapshot. So it only really affects the burst. I'm tempted to grab this because Hu Tao. But I'm pretty sure that this actually doesn't do anything. Because we're very close to the limits of Hu Tao's abilities. So we're just gonna go with the other one. Alright, so we should be able to just deal with this with Jean. Not bad at all. I probably shouldn't heal the Hu Tao. Oh, I didn't get it in time. That's not that big of a worry because we do have Xing Cho to deal with that. Let's go ahead and heal everyone up. God, there's just so many enemies. Honestly, the most frustrating part is just how much you have to move throughout the entire stage, because all of the enemies are so mobile. Just gonna try to kill the ads real quick, while Xingqiu is still on cooldown. It looks like we might barely be able to do the next one if I play the cards properly. The crit does stay on the yes. Pretty much any buff that you apply when you cast it, snapshots. That's one of the reasons why Iron Sting is a really, really good defensive option for Albedo, because it can snapshot the damage bonus, and the extra Elemental Mastery is actually really impactful. It's a lot more impactful than people think. Oh my god. We need to heal the Raiden. So the good thing is that we only have to deal with 3 of those, but the bad thing is that we have to deal with 3 of those. I am trying to play 2 Koi. I need to start just focusing a little bit more on damage. God, speaking of damage, the drain is so painful. So we need to heal you, we need to heal you. We're definitely not gonna 9-star this one. But it's fine, we only want to see how far we can go. I'm pretty sure that if you put a lot of effort into it, you could definitely do this quick enough. It would probably need another character though. Either investing more into the Bennett so that he heals slightly more. Maybe get a little bit more energy recharge. Stuff like that. Yeah, with a tiny bit more investment on the Bennett, we probably could do this. In fact, we probably could do this even right now. I just don't want to go through a frustration. The heal on the Noel is barely enough to out-sustain the burn. So, not particularly horrible. I think we are pretty much reaching the nearing stage for the end. I think I've done a pretty good showcase of how powerful this team can be. Unless you guys want to see floor 12. If you want to see floor 12, I can probably try to do that once or twice. This, in my opinion, is one of the worst design floors in the history of Genshin. This one right here is probably up there with some of the worst showcases of what Abyss has to offer. That right there is one of the reasons why this floor in particular is probably one of the worst. It spawns so many enemies in a game that auto-targets, doesn't let you choose which enemies, and actively lowers the health that you have whenever you kill an enemy. The way that this shield works, by the way, is that you're supposed to kill all of the... You're supposed to kill all of the bats so that she can't redo the shield. But you can't do that, because if you do that, your characters start to die. The teleportation does not help in the slightest either. This particular floor is beyond annoying, and without an Nemo character, it is definitely so much more difficult than it has to be. Exclusively because of the game mechanics of Genshin. And that's what makes it so frustrating. Nothing here is in your control. Everything is almost entirely random. There is guaranteed damage in every corner. Mechanics do not matter. The only thing that matters is that you can kill things quick enough. If that is not something that you can accomplish, this floor is extremely difficult. Everything is so incredibly mobile as well. It's very difficult to get some to get damage out. Because as you can see, they just teleport. It's so frustrating. Funny enough, you could probably 3-star that floor with this particular team. Just needs a little bit more investment. Not the previous one. The previous one, you could probably do that already. The only thing that you would really need to change would probably be the Xingqiu. If the Xingqiu starts dealing a little bit of damage, you could probably 3-star that one. This is yet another team that pushes CC above everything. Oh my god, it's so frustrating. Oh man, we're gonna have to reset this one, aren't we? I have to say, this floor 11 is 100% my choice for the worst designed Abyss floor ever. Just period. This is the worst designed one, for sure. I don't think anything beats it. And that's saying something. We have had a lot of really bad Abyss floors. I can't even pull you in, can I? Oh no, I did. Perfect. How to buff Chi-Chi indirectly without buffing her. Well, here's the thing, even Chi-Chi wouldn't really help that much. If that was the intent, this is failure. This is maximum failure. One of the biggest problems with this particular Abyss floor is there's just too much stuff to deal with. It's very difficult for any player that doesn't one-shot these guys at the very beginning to fight everything that's being thrown at you. It's just too much. You have to fight against the teleportation, you have to fight against the element system, you have to fight against CC, you have to fight against mobility, you have to fight against healing. It's too much. Not to mention environmental damage at one-shot enemies like this one. You even have to fight the targeting system because those little things just don't let you target. The knockback is also set up to maximum, intentionally, I would presume. This one definitely has my star for the worst Abyss.